History does not always announce its secrets with grandeur. Sometimes it leaves behind a shape in the sand, a stone aligned too precisely with the horizon, a structure standing where no settlement should have survived. Across ancient history, there are anomalies that resist easy explanation, sites whose scale, geometry, or isolation feels slightly out of place in the timeline we think we understand. They are not myths, and they are not fantasies. They are real locations, excavated and measured, yet still quietly defiant. The deeper we investigate them, the more they challenge a simple question: how much of our past have we truly deciphered? And how much is still waiting beneath the surface? Amid the semi-arid region of the Phugtal Hills, where low limestone ridges stretch into the distance and rare rains determine survival, the Kabah complex rises as a strange testament to the ingenuity of the ancient Maya. Among all the structures that remain, none leaves a deeper and more haunting impression than Qasr, also known as the Temple of Masks, a masterpiece that is simultaneously religious, symbolic, and filled with mysteries that no one has fully deciphered. At first glance, all one sees is a facade covered entirely in repeating faces of the rain god Chak, like a stone-carved prayer. But as one moves closer, it becomes clear that the greatest mystery does not lie in the masks themselves, but in the way the Maya created them, an astonishingly refined construction technique in which every stone interlocks so precisely that no mortar or binding material was ever required. Do you believe the Maya's mortarless stone-fitting technique at Qasr came from generations of accumulated knowledge, architectural genius, or perhaps an ancient form of wisdom that modern society has lost? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Kabah stands in the Phugtal region, a land where the Maya were not blessed with abundant water. There were no permanent rivers, no large natural lakes, and no easily accessible groundwater. In such harsh conditions, the worship of Chak, the rain god, became central to spiritual life. This may be why Qasr was built a structure whose entire facade served as a petition wall, raised to the deity of rain. More than 200 Chak masks occupy the surface, each with a lightning-shaped hook nose, repeating in a hypnotic rhythm, giving viewers the sense of standing before an endless prayer. Behind this dense layer of reliefs lies an even more astonishing technical achievement. Everything is assembled from thousands of small stones, each one cut at precise angles so they lock into place, forming a durability that later civilizations could only marvel at. The Phugtal technique, considered the pinnacle of Maya architecture in northern Yucatan, is based on a seemingly simple yet masterful principle: gravity friction and sophisticated geometry. The Maya did not use mortar to bind stones. Instead, each piece was cut with such precision that once placed, it formed a seamless surface without even the slightest gap. Every stone in the masks, whether creating curves, ridges, outlines, or protruding noses, was carved to fit perfectly with its neighbor. When viewed closely, it is difficult to tell where the natural edge of a stone ends and where a joint begins, because everything is fitted so tightly that the entire surface appears almost unified. This raises a profound question. How could the Maya, working with stone and copper tools, create such complex, three-dimensional decorative panels without any structural errors? The lower wall of Qasr is relatively smooth and solid, built with large blocks of stone, serving as a stable foundation. The upper section, where hundreds of Chak masks are installed, is a world constructed from thousands of small stones, assembled like a meticulous mosaic. The balance between the two sections, strong below and elaborate yet lightweight above, is clear evidence of the Mayas' perfect understanding of gravity and load distribution. A deviation of just a few millimeters in the placement of the upper stones could have shifted the load, unevenly risking the collapse of the entire facade. And yet the structure has endured for centuries, surviving monsoon winds, storms, harsh weather, and the erosion of time. This has led archaeologists to believe that Phug artisans were not merely builders, but mathematicians and engineers with deep knowledge of spatial geometry. A closer look reveals that not all the masks are identical. Some feature symbols of water, others evoke wind or storms, and some emphasize directional elements suggesting the presence of Cha'ak, of the east-west, south, and north. This has led to the theory that the structure is more than a simple prayer for rain. It may be a kind of stone-encoded scripture in which architecture became a system of religious symbolism. Yet what puzzles researchers even more is the method by which these masks were attached to the wall. They were not carved directly into the surface, but assembled from many small stones. Each Cha'ak mask is not a single carved block. It is a composition created from numerous pieces. If even one piece had chipped or cracked over time, the mask could have lost its form or structural integrity. Yet most masks have survived almost intact through the centuries, demonstrating the near-perfect precision of Phug construction. The mystery deepens when scholars realize that Qasr does not seem to have a clearly defined function. It does not fully resemble a palace, nor does it match the layout of a temple with a central altar. Some believe that rituals occurred outside the structure rather than within it. Others suggest that the building served as a place where religious leaders observed changes in wind clouds and sunlight, like a primitive meteorological station for predicting the rainy season. Its elevated position overlooking the driest part of the valley strengthens this hypothesis. Some scholars even propose that the repetition of hundreds of Cha'ak masks was meant to amplify sacred energy, a kind of spiritual resonance created through architecture. But without surviving Maya texts describing its purpose, Qasr remains one of Kabah's greatest mysteries. One cannot ignore the ceremonial road connecting Kabah to Uxmal, a sacred highway stretching many kilometers. For a major structure like Qasr to lie at the end or midpoint of this route suggests that it may have played a role in a multi-city ritual system far more complex than previously imagined. Who presided over these ceremonies? Did Kabah or Uxmal hold greater authority? And why would a structure as symbolically important as Qasr be situated in a city that was not the central power of the Phug region? These questions remain unanswered. Regardless of its original purpose, one fact cannot be denied. The Phug construction technique, with its perfectly interlocking mortarless stones, is the true mystery that makes Qasr unique. The small stones are arranged into a complex, layered interwoven system, combining artistry with advanced engineering. Each stone was placed in its exact position to bear weight and lock the others in place, like components of a machine that could not be allowed to fail. When modern viewers stand before Qasr and try to imagine how it was built, many find themselves overwhelmed by a single realization. One minor miscalculation or careless placement would have made the entire facade impossible. Yet, it has stood firm for over 12 centuries. And that is what makes Qasr one of the most perplexing structures of the ancient Maya world. It is not only the largest mask-covered wall they ever built, but also a testament to architectural mastery far ahead of its time. Whether or not time continues to erode it, Cod's poop will continue to challenge every study, reconstruction, and theory of the modern world. For sometimes, the greatest mysteries do not lie in the answers themselves, but in the enduring presence of a structure built by the Maya through unwavering skill, intellect, and belief. The Labna Arch Gateway, or the Labna Vaulted Arch, has long been regarded as one of the most mysterious and refined architectural works of the ancient Maya civilization. Located within the archaeological site of Labna in the Puuc region of the Yucatan Peninsula, this gateway draws attention not only for its symbolic beauty, but also for the many unanswered questions surrounding its construction techniques, ceremonial functions, and the forgotten secrets of the Maya. Standing amid a landscape filled with ruins eroded by time, the Labna Arch has remained upright for over a millennium, posing a challenge to archaeologists, engineers, and all who study human history. What makes this structure extraordinary is not just its unusual form, but above all, the flawless, mortarless stone-fitting technique that exceeds what people once believed the ancient Maya were capable of. In your opinion, what allowed the Labna Arch to survive for more than 1,000 years without using any kind of binding material? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might be the key to unlocking this ancient mystery. From the very first glance, the Labna Arch displays the distinctive characteristics of Puuc architecture: sharp geometric patterns, intricate carvings, and an almost perfect sense of balance in its overall design. But behind this aesthetic sophistication lie major questions about how the Maya built it. The arch stands between the temple complex and a ceremonial area, yet it does not function as a city gate, nor does it serve defensive or administrative purposes, nor connect two large architectural zones in any conventional way. Instead, it seems to act as a symbol, a boundary between two worlds, a ceremonial threshold or a gateway, representing the soul's journey from the human realm to the divine, according to Maya belief. These functional mysteries remain unresolved, but if the question of what the arch was used for is still debated, the question of how the Maya constructed it is even more difficult to answer. What astonishes researchers most is the mortarless stone-fitting technique. This is not uncommon in Maya architecture, but at Labna, the level of perfection reaches an extraordinary extreme. Small limestone blocks, hand-cut with rudimentary tools, mainly harder stones, and wood, were fitted together so precisely that no gaps remain, allowing the entire arch to stand for thousands of years without any binding material. This presents a technical paradox. How could the Maya, who lacked metal tools such as iron or bronze, achieve such high precision? The contact surfaces between the stones do not merely align perfectly, they are arranged in a complex, geometric pattern to distribute weight onto the supporting walls, a level of structural understanding that many believe only exists in civilizations with far more advanced engineering. Moreover, the Labna Arch does not follow the form of a Roman rounded arch, but instead uses a corbel arch constructed by stacking stones in progressively inward-leaning layers until they meet at the top. Though this technique is common in Maya architecture, the accuracy with which the stones at Labna were angled, weighted, and positioned is nearly unbelievable. A misalignment of just a few millimeters would destabilize the entire structure. Yet the builders accomplished this with no blueprints, no measuring instruments, and no mortar, relying only on eyesight experience and some lost body of architectural knowledge that we have yet to understand. Several modern architects, who have examined the structure admit that building something so precise with primitive tools is virtually impossible without advanced calculation systems. Many hypotheses attempt to explain this extraordinary precision. Some suggest that the Maya developed a measurement system based on astronomical observation, enabling them to calculate architectural geometry. Others believe they refined the structure through repeated trials, correcting mistakes until achieving perfection. However, this theory is difficult to support, as structural instability would occur long before such trial and error adjustments were possible. A bolder theory proposes that Puuc construction techniques may have originated from an older, now forgotten source of knowledge, or that key technical traditions were lost after the peak of Maya civilization. All these ideas remain speculative, as no surviving Maya texts describe how the Labna arch was built. Another unusual feature is that the two sides of the arch have entirely different designs, suggesting a symbolic transition between states' worlds or ceremonial processes. The Maya believed that the sacred and earthly realms coexisted. Ceremonial gateways like this may signify a spiritual crossing point. Yet this is only one of many theories, since no surviving texts explain the exact meaning of the motifs and symbols carved into the structure. Adding to the mystery is the structure's resilience, despite the collapse of surrounding buildings. The tropical climate of the Yucatan, with high humidity and seasonal rains, usually causes limestone to erode rapidly. Many nearby Maya structures have deteriorated severely, yet the Labna arch remains sturdy, as if its construction was deliberately engineered to withstand time better than any other building in the area. This has led to theories that the builders understood the local limestone's properties well and arranged the stones in layers with optimal density to evenly distribute force, avoiding stress points that could cause collapse. Not only the construction technique puzzles researchers, but the true purpose of the arch also remains unsolved. Labna was not a major Maya city, yet it contains structures of surprising technical sophistication far beyond what daily life required. This suggests that Labna may once have been a significant ceremonial site or a spiritual transition point, a place associated with rituals of rebirth, death, or symbolic journeys performed by Maya priests. The arch stands along a sakbe, a ceremonial white road used by the Maya, reinforcing the idea that it played a role in ritual processions or spiritual practices. Still, archaeological evidence is insufficient for a definitive conclusion, making the Labna arch one of the Puuc region's most debated structures. Although the Maya were known for their astronomical observation and mathematical thinking, archaeologists still cannot replicate the Labna arch's construction process with certainty. Some research teams have attempted computer simulations, finding that even slight changes in the arch's parameters cause structural instability. This suggests that Maya builders possessed a form of architectural intuition developed over generations, or that they relied on a system of knowledge we do not yet understand. When compared to other Puuc structures such as Uxmal and Kabah, it becomes clear that this precision is not accidental. It represents the height of a sophisticated architectural tradition. Yet at Labna, the technique reaches an almost impossible extreme. Today, the Labna arch is not only an archaeological relic, but also a symbol of the enduring mysteries of the Maya civilization. Each stone in the arch holds an unanswered question. Each carved pattern hints at something beyond our current understanding. Although modern technology, laser scanning, 3D modeling, geological analysis has revealed the astonishing precision of its mortarless construction, none of it has uncovered the true secret behind the structure. Perhaps that is why the Labna Arch Gateway remains one of the most enigmatic architectural works of the ancient world, a gateway standing between past and present, between what we know and what we still cannot comprehend. The ancient village of Sagara, Oman, has long been regarded as one of the most mysterious and unique ancient settlements on the Al-Hajar Mountains, not only because of its remote position, but also because of historical traces that seem frozen in time for centuries. Perched over 2,000 meters above sea level between towering cliffs, the village existed almost entirely isolated from the outside world, connected only by treacherous mountain trails that even local inhabitants found difficult to traverse. This natural isolation gave Sagara a distinctly enigmatic aura, as if it were a secret safeguarded by stone, wind, and time. What makes Sagara stand out the most, turning it into a completely singular architectural phenomenon in Oman, is the way its inhabitants built their homes. Stone houses pressed tightly against the mountain cliffs, half embedded within the rock and half exposed, forming a peculiar survival system that modern researchers still cannot fully explain. When examining the stone architecture of Sagara closely, one is immediately struck by the seamless blending of living space and natural terrain. The stone walls were not erected on flat ground, like in other ancient Omani villages, but were skillfully attached to the raw cliffs using natural rock formations as walls, ceilings, and sometimes even floors. This demanded an exceptional technique. Ancient builders had to understand the load-bearing points of the mountain-carved stone slabs that fit the natural contours and ensure enough durability to withstand strong winds, hail, and the harsh climate of high-altitude deserts. No one knows how the people of the past mastered such methods, as they lacked advanced metal tools and lived in an environment with limited resources. Yet the houses have clung firmly to the cliffs for hundreds of years, as if embraced by the mountain itself. This raises numerous questions. Did the ancient inhabitants possess a now lost architectural knowledge? Did they observe the principles of stone, wind, and temperature in ways modern people no longer understand? The architecture of Sagara is not only beautiful and unusual, it reflects an extraordinary philosophy of survival, living in harmony with the mountain, using it as shelter and turning stone into a companion. This total integration with nature is what makes Sagara the only settlement in Oman with such a mountain-hugging design, both primitive and sophisticated. Each house resembles an artificially carved cave, hidden from desert winds and scorching summer heat. Inside, the temperature remains much cooler thanks to the thick rock layers serving as natural insulation. In winter, the stone retains warmth, creating a stable and comfortable atmosphere despite the frigid mountain climate. These features are far from accidental. They prove that ancient residents possessed a deep understanding of the environment and knew how to adapt their living spaces perfectly to the landscape. The mystery deepens when observing the internal layout of the houses. Some dwellings have extremely narrow entrances that require visitors to bow down, reducing wind impact and preventing dust from blowing inside. Others feature small round or square openings placed high on the wall, serving as observation points that outsiders rarely notice. Certain houses are connected by hidden passageways, causing unfamiliar visitors to easily lose their sense of direction. Many experts believe the entire village functions as a hidden fortress, its true layout understandable only to its native inhabitants. Even when standing a few hundred meters away, people often fail to recognize that homes exist there at all, as the color of the stones blends seamlessly with the mountain cliffs. This natural camouflage made Sagara an excellent refuge during past tribal conflicts. Beyond its distinctive architecture, the village's survival system also astonishes researchers. Devoid of stable water sources, streams, or traditional fallage irrigation channels, the people of ancient Sagara developed a rainwater harvesting network using natural rock crevices and small reservoirs scattered around the village. Strangely enough, this system worked effectively for centuries, sustaining the community despite the extremely low rainfall in Oman's mountains. Residents also preserved food by exploiting temperature changes between day and night, storing supplies in cool rock crevices to prolong freshness. All of this demonstrates remarkable adaptive intelligence. Perhaps the greatest mystery is that Sagara's true historical origins remain largely unstudied. Few ancient documents mention the village, and formal archaeological work has scarcely been conducted. Some scholars propose that Sagara's architecture may predate the Islamic era, based on similarities in stone arrangement and site selection found among Arabian communities thousands of years ago. Others argue that the village is only a few centuries old, and its unusual architecture simply reflects environmental adaptation. To this day, there is no definitive answer. Another intriguing mystery is that the village was nearly forgotten by the world until it appeared on Google Maps in the past decade. This sudden digital presence sparked curiosity. Why would such a small, isolated village lacking roads and modernization be one of the first places in Oman to be documented by Google's Special Street View projects? Did the government wish to preserve a unique cultural heritage site? Or did the village's peculiar architecture make it an ideal symbol of ancient mountain life? The question remains open, adding yet another layer of intrigue to Sagara's already enigmatic identity. Today, the village is sparsely populated, but traditional lifestyles endure. Families continue herding goats along rocky slopes, farming limited plots, nestled in small valleys, and living in stone houses, exactly as their ancestors did centuries ago. Visiting Sagara feels like stepping into a forgotten world where time slows down and daily life follows ancient rhythms. Even as modern development spreads across Oman, Sagara remains raw and unchanged, standing as a living witness to history. This constancy makes many visitors and researchers view the village as a natural museum where every stone slab mountain path and cliff-hugging home tells a deeper story than what meets the eye. Above all, the stone houses clinging to the mountain cliffs, utterly unique in Oman, have become a symbol of the ancient inhabitants' creativity and remarkable resilience, leaving one of the most unforgettable marks in the architectural history of the Middle East. Sagara, therefore, is not merely a village, it is a mystery, an unanswered question, and a living testament to the beautiful interplay between nature and human ingenuity. So what do you think is the greatest mystery of the ancient village of Sagara? Do you believe its cliff-hugging stone architecture was created using a lost construction technique, or was it simply an extraordinary adaptation to a harsh mountain environment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The tombs of the kings at Nea Paphos is one of the most mysterious burial complexes of the Hellenistic Roman period, where layers of sandstone were transformed by ancient hands into vast underground architecture, monumental, imposing, and filled with details far beyond what any ordinary cemetery would possess. Despite its grand name, Tombs of the Kings, there is no evidence that any actual king was ever buried here. This only deepens the mystery surrounding the site, because upon entering, the first impression anyone receives is the overwhelming sense of scale, refinement, and ceremonial atmosphere, something that feels appropriate only for the highest elites of ancient society. Yet the true wonder of this complex does not lie in its misleading title, but in the extraordinary ability of its builders to carve entire structures out of a single mass of stone. Through a technique that seems almost supernatural, they turned an entire stretch of coastal sandstone into rooms, courtyards, corridors, and columns that are so precise, harmonious, and beautiful that many believe they must have possessed technological secrets we can no longer fully understand today. Do you think the incredibly precise monolithic stone-cutting techniques at Nea Paphos were the result of lost ancient knowledge, or simply the exceptional skills of ancient craftsmen? Share your thoughts in the comments below. When observing the tombs, especially the courtyard of Tomb 3, with its upright Doric columns, sharp lines, and perfect balance of forms, one might assume the complex was constructed in the traditional manner, with separate stone blocks transported and assembled on site. But a closer look reveals that everything was carved directly from a single, continuous rock formation. There were no transported columns, no fitted stone blocks. Everything from corridors, stairways, and burial chambers to decorative elements was released from the native stone through a carving and shaping method so precise that even minor deviations of a few millimeters are rare. This monolithic rock-cut technique does not merely speak of great craftsmanship, but showcases a strange fusion of scientific understanding, geological observation, and a remarkably high artistic sensibility. During the Hellenistic period, similar techniques appeared at places like Alexandria or Petra, but Nea Paphos stands out because it merges classical Greek architectural ideals with subterranean carving traditions reminiscent of Egypt. The ancient craftsmen did not simply carve stone, they architected it. They began from the surface and carved downward using a top-down method, creating an open-air courtyard surrounded by 4 vertical walls, polished smooth with Doric columns protruding naturally from the parent rock rather than being constructed. Each column is part of the original geological layer, meaning they had to calculate exact positions, spacing, ceiling height, wall thickness, and structural balance to prevent collapse, even though much of the structure lies below ground. This was not mere manual labor. It was a coordinated act that combined engineering, sculpture, and geological knowledge. They also created ventilation routes, light shafts, and access paths so that the living could visit to perform rituals without difficulty. From deep interior corridors to flat-roofed burial chambers with wall niches and places for grave offerings, everything was arranged with such care that the site feels less like a tomb and more like a living architectural entity, a home for the souls of ancient aristocrats. As modern archaeology investigates further, researchers realize that the precision of Nea Paphos came not only from skill, but also from an intimate understanding of local geology. The sandstone here is vulnerable to weatherings if mishandled, yet extremely durable if carved along its natural grain and structural load lines. This demonstrates that ancient builders did more than apply brute strength. They understood stone in a way that today's engineers usually require modern instruments to replicate. To carve such a large open courtyard without causing any wall to collapse, they had to know precisely where deep cuts were safe and where supporting masses needed to remain. This implies they surveyed the rock in advance, perhaps using acoustic tapping methods or generational knowledge passed down among master stonemasons. Their monolithic carving also impresses in its perfect flatness. Walls, nearly 3 or 4 meters high, still retain smooth, straight surfaces, suggesting high-quality metal tools and possibly the use of water and fine sand abrasives for final polishing. Minimal error flat planes and nearly perfect right angles all evoke comparisons to other mysterious rock-cut sites such as Petra or Egyptian Hypogea. The blend of Greek and Egyptian architectural traditions in what appears to be a necropolis is part of what makes Nea Paphos so extraordinary. Some tombs feature peristyle courtyards, reminiscent of Greek villas, while the subterranean chambers resemble Egyptian burial rooms with niches and ritual spaces. The use of Doric columns, symbols of classical Greek architecture, in a rock-cut environment amplifies the mystery, because Doric columns were traditionally assembled from individual stone drums. Here, however, they are carved as monolithic forms, as if the architects were intentionally challenging the norms of their own time. The subtle curvature and tapering of the columns following the classical entasis technique to make them appear stronger and more elegant were reproduced through carving alone, requiring extraordinary visual judgment and measurement. The tombs of the kings spans more than 2 square kilometers, with some tombs large enough to resemble ceremonial halls rather than burial chambers. This has led to theories that the site may not have served solely as a place for interment, but may once have functioned as a ritual center connected to funerary or ancestral practices where the living gathered to perform rites or sacred ceremonies. Some rooms lack evidence of burials, entirely suggesting they may have been used for religious gatherings, funerary feasts, or elite assemblies of the Ptolemaic aristocracy in Cyprus. Whatever the true purpose, scholars cannot overlook the enormous investment required to create such a complex, especially one with no recorded patron and no clearly identified occupants. This gives the entire site an air of a lost civilization, one capable of turning a vast sandstone plateau into architecture as precise as any produced from detailed architectural plans today. Another mystery lies in the near-complete disappearance of decorative elements. Ancient accounts suggest that many rooms were once painted, some adorned with frescoes depicting religious rituals, yet almost all have vanished. Only faint traces remain, enough to imply that the tombs once looked far more vibrant and ceremonial than their current stark appearance suggests. This absence complicates efforts to reconstruct the original atmosphere, leaving archaeologists to piece together the cultural and ritual context using only the architecture itself. The loss of organic decoration has bestowed a somber, austere beauty upon the place, further highlighting the monolithic stonework produced with superlative precision. Today, as visitors walk through the corridors and peer into the sunlit courtyards of the tombs of the kings, they feel an uncanny stillness, as though time has never conquered the site. The chisel marks remain sharp, the walls stand perfectly straight, and the monolithic Doric columns still rise proudly beneath the open sky. All of this leads scholars and travelers to the same question: how did people more than 2,000 years ago, without modern machinery, without laser measuring tools, without advanced engineering, create such flawless rock-cut architecture? Did they possess a lost tradition of craftsmanship, or were they simply master artisans who combined labor, experience, and genius to achieve results that astonish us today? Whatever the truth, the tombs of the kings at Nea Paphos stands as a living testament to ancient mastery over natural materials. Its monolithic architecture continues to bewilder the modern world and reminds us that history hides innumerable skills, knowledge, and achievements that may have vanished. in the silence of the chambers, in the shadow of the stone-cut Doric columns, and in the sunlight pouring through perfectly shaped square openings, one can still feel the lingering echo of a long-gone civilization, one that transformed stone into architecture, death into art, and left behind a mystery that has never ceased to captivate humanity. The Qasr al-Bint Temple of Petra, located in the heart of Petra, has always been regarded as one of the most mysterious and unique religious structures of the Nabateans, not only because of its majestic remains rising in the desert, but also due to the countless unanswered questions surrounding its purpose materials, and especially the construction techniques far beyond the common understanding of the ancient world. While most structures in Petra were carved directly into sandstone cliffs, from grand tombs to intricately detailed sanctuaries, Qasr al-Bint stands apart entirely. It does not rely on a cliff face, nor does it lie hidden within rock, but rises independently like a self-standing architectural mass. This freestanding temple style is rare within Nabatean civilization. Such an unusual choice has led archaeologists to ask, why did the Nabateans choose a method of construction that required higher skill, greater risk, and far more complexity compared to rock-cut architecture? A technique they had already mastered in Petra. Was the temple intended for a particularly important religious function, or did it hold ceremonial meaning that far surpassed the role of a typical temple in the ancient world? Its true purpose remains a mystery that modern scholarship has yet to solve. And that is only the surface of the mysteries surrounding Qasr al-Bint. The identity of the deity worshipped here has been a subject of debate for decades. Some scholars argue that it was the supreme sanctuary dedicated to Dushara, the chief god of the Nabateans, and a central figure in ancient Arabian religion. However, other archaeological evidence suggests a connection to the goddess al-Uzza, or perhaps even a divine triad that once shaped the spiritual life of Petra's inhabitants. The absence of inscriptions, carvings, or explicit symbols makes it nearly impossible to determine the exact deity. As a result, the temple carries a multi-layered meaning. It exists as a physical sanctuary, but also as the remnant of a ceremonial system that time has erased. Another feature that makes Qasr al-Bint difficult to explain is its unusual fusion of architectural styles from multiple civilizations. A closer look reveals Hellenistic Roman influences in its column layout, facade, and proportional design. Yet interwoven with these elements are decorative motifs typical of Nabatean culture, along with traces reminiscent of ancient Egyptian artistic traditions. For a religious monument to blend so many influences with such precision, the Nabateans must have possessed a far more extensive network of cultural exchange than history records. Some bold theories suggest Petra may have been a meeting place for architects from various regions, or even a ceremonial hub with influence reaching beyond Arabia. However, without surviving contemporary texts, these remain only hypotheses. But the feature that makes Qasr al-Bint one of the most unexplainable ancient structures in the world is its earthquake-resistant engineering, astonishingly advanced for its era. Petra lies in a region strongly affected by tectonic fault lines, where earthquakes occur in cycles of several centuries. Yet while countless other structures have collapsed or suffered catastrophic damage over time, Qasr al-Bint, though weathered, still stands, with its core structural mass remaining largely intact. The secret lies in how the Nabateans designed and assembled its stone blocks. They used massive stones connected by cleverly engineered joints that allowed slight movement during seismic shaking without cracking or collapsing. This is the same principle modern engineering calls flexible joints, a shock-absorbing technique. The presence of such joints in a structure more than 2 millennia old has astonished seismologists, for no civilization in the region at the time was thought to possess such an understanding of earthquakes. Even more striking geophysical surveys reveal that the Nabateans embedded wooden beams deep inside the stone walls, placed strategically to absorb seismic forces. During an earthquake, these beams helped disperse energy, preventing the walls from collapsing. This method, timber lacing, became known in later Greek-Roman architecture, yet at Qasr al-Bint, it appears significantly earlier. This raises profound questions. Where did the Nabateans learn this? Did they develop it independently, or did they draw from an unknown body of knowledge lost to history? Additionally, the temple's foundation was engineered to distribute seismic forces, a primitive but effective anti-seismic platform. When the ground shook, the impact did not transfer directly into the entire structure. Instead, it was moderated by layered materials and the unique foundation geometry. Many modern engineers, after examining 3D structural models, admit that it seems almost impossible for an ancient civilization to apply multiple seismic-resistant techniques simultaneously. Yet the evidence remains Qasr al-Bint exists, defying every known technical limit of its time. This temple stands as a testament to the remarkable intelligence and engineering mastery of the Nabateans, a people often described as mysterious, who left few writings behind, yet possessed extraordinary architectural knowledge. Beyond its engineering marvels, the area surrounding the temple contains numerous traces of enigmatic rituals. Stairways seemingly designed for processions, remnants of offerings, and foundations of auxiliary structures all indicate that Qasr al-Bint was once a central ceremonial site in Petra. Some archaeologists believe it may have served as the coronation venue for Nabatean kings, or as the site of rituals tied to seasonal cycles and religious authority. Yet the sequence of rites, the participants, and the deeper meaning remain unknown. Even its name, Qasr al-Bint, meaning the palace of the princess, is shrouded in mystery. The name derives from an old Arabian legend about a wealthy princess said to have lived in the region, yet no evidence connects her story to the temple. Still, the name has persisted for centuries, as though the monument itself carries a veil of myth that no one wishes to dispel. Finally, one of the greatest remaining mysteries is the evidence of an ancient fire that damaged large parts of the structure. Despite the absence of signs of warfare or invasion, the cause of the fire remains unknown. Was it part of a ritual, an accident, or a forgotten historical event? No one can say, but the charred walls stand as witnesses to a significant moment erased from human memory. All these elements, from its freestanding architecture, an unidentified deity, to its multicultural design, enigmatic rituals, and extraordinary earthquake-resistant engineering, make Qasr al-Bint one of the most perplexing ancient monuments in the world. It stands there in the valley of Petra, like an undeciphered message, proof that the Nabateans possessed knowledge far beyond what history attributes to them. And although time has taken much from the structure, its most important quality remains. Qasr al-Bint still stands, continuing to challenge time, nature, and even the intellect of modern humanity. Do you think the advanced earthquake-resistant technology at Qasr al-Bint was a result of lost ancient knowledge, outside influence, or a breakthrough of the Nabateans themselves? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might reveal another missing piece of this ancient mystery. The Machu Picchu Torreon Temple has always been regarded as one of the most mysterious structures of the Inca civilization, not only because of its distinctive curved architecture or its astonishingly precise astronomical alignments, but also because of the way it was built upon a massive natural rock, a foundation that challenges all ancient engineering techniques and remains largely unexplained today. Located at the very center of the Machu Picchu citadel, the Torreon resembles a semicircular tower embracing a monolithic stone, creating a unique fusion of nature and human ingenuity, unlike any other Inca construction. Viewed from above, one can easily see the seamless union between the curve of the stone wall and the natural curve of the rock on which it rests, as if the Inca artisans did not merely build on stone, but cast the tower out of it in ways we still do not fully understand. If the Torreon was truly built upon a deep understanding of terrain and natural energy, how do you think the Inca acquired that knowledge? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. This structure is not only an observatory or a shrine dedicated to the sun god Inti, but also a symbol of Inca knowledge about the cosmos, time, landscape, and materials. Yet what forces experts to pause and ask the most profound question is, how did the Inca construct the Torreon atop a natural rock surface that is rough-curved and uneven, while ensuring that every fitted stone aligns so perfectly that not even a hair can be inserted between the joints? This remains one of the greatest enigmas within the many mysteries surrounding Machu Picchu and the Torreon. The stones forming the Torreon were carved from granite, a material extremely hard to work with, requiring sophisticated techniques even by modern standards. Most blocks were shaped into flawless flat surfaces, but even more astonishing is how these surfaces were matched to a natural bedrock that has no geometric regularity whatsoever. To make the Torreon's curved walls sit snugly on this rock, the Inca had to flatten, adjust, and shape each stone precisely according to the curvature, angle, and micro-contours of the underlying bedrock, something specialists describe as three-dimensional measurement work of extreme accuracy accomplished without any modern metal tools. A team of architects, builders, and artisans must have thoroughly understood the bedrock's structure, load-bearing capacity, fracture lines, and how to distribute weight across such an irregular and curved surface. Determining the ideal contact points alone, ensuring the Torreons would not slip off, was itself an engineering feat far ahead of its time. What astonishes researchers even more is that the natural rock beneath the Torreon is not flat, but steeply sloped, divided into multiple curved surfaces. Placing unmortared stones atop such terrain, while maintaining stability for over 500 years of harsh Andean climate, seems nearly impossible. Yet the Torreon remains intact, neither tilting, collapsing, nor showing significant displacement, despite centuries of erosion and multiple earthquakes that have shaken Machu Picchu. This has led many to believe that the Inca may have mastered natural vibration-resistant construction by choosing the optimal location, distributing weight strategically, and creating interlocking points between the built stones and the natural rock. How the Torreon's foundation came to be is a major topic of debate among archaeologists. Some researchers argue that the Inca selected this rock because its elevation was ideal for astronomical functions. Others believe they chose it because the original bedrock possessed exceptional durability. More daring theories suggest that the rock may have been inherently sacred, seen as a mother stone, and that the Torreon was built around it as a ceremonial shell to enhance its sanctity. But whatever the purpose, refining massive granite blocks to fit onto such an irregular curved bedrock is nearly impossible, using only stone and bronze tools believed to be the materials available to the Inca. Inside the Torreon, a large sacred stone with an unusually flat surface further reinforces the technical mystery of the structure. Though not part of the exterior foundation, the fact that it was carved into a ceremonial platform in its natural position, placed precisely at the tower's center, proves that the Inca did not merely build upon rock, they directly altered the primordial stone, turning it into an integral component of the architecture. This reveals their exceptional ability to work granite not only by fitting blocks precisely, but also by producing perfectly flat, ritual surfaces right on site under extremely limited working conditions. The greatest mystery still lies in the construction techniques. Some theories propose that the Inca used fire and water to fracture rock, then polished surfaces with sand and harder stones. Others suggest they employed now-lost methods. But to this day, no archaeological evidence describes a standardized method the Inca used to achieve such precision. No blueprints, no metal tools, no measuring machines. Yet they produced a structure that modern engineers admit, recreating the Torreon on such a natural rock foundation would be highly expensive, complex, and require laser surveying technology. This leads to an even deeper question. Did the Inca not merely build the Torreon, but rather sculpt it out of the existing landscape? Instead of constructing a standalone structure, perhaps they shaped the land itself, flattening certain areas, creating anchor points, forming locking surfaces before placing the stones. If true, the Torreon is not only an archaeological monument, but also a large-scale geological sculpture. Yet due to the absence of Inca written records, this remains speculation. Another remarkable detail is the Torreon's orientation. It not only rests on a curved bedrock, but is aligned precisely to capture sunlight during the solstices. This implies that the Inca calculated the structure's placement from the very beginning, ensuring the natural rock's curvature did not distort the astronomical angles. Building such precision on flat terrain is already difficult. Maintaining it atop a curved rock surface is exponentially more challenging. All of this explains why the Torreon is considered one of the most significant constructions at Machu Picchu. Not only because of its religious and astronomical functions, but also because it exceeds the technological limits expected of a pre-metal civilization. Its survival through centuries of climate change, earthquakes, and natural erosion proves that the Inca were not merely skilled builders. They deeply understood natural structure, terrain, and gravity, and knew how to harness all these elements to create a structure that still astonishes modern observers. And it is precisely this foundation, the massive natural rock, that turns the Torreon into one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world. For unless we understand how the Inca mastered that rock, we will never truly comprehend the secret behind their engineering brilliance. Amid the vast expanse of the Sahara, where endless dunes stretch to the horizon and scorching winds seem determined to erase every trace of human presence, stands an ancient ruin that has defied both time and nature, the stone city of Ouadane. This solitary stone settlement, perched on a barren hillside in Mauritania, evokes a sense of grandeur and mystery, as though it belongs not to the present world, but to a forgotten civilization, long buried beneath layers of time. What remains of Ouadane is not merely the ruins of a once thriving commercial hub, but a testament to an extraordinary architectural intelligence, particularly the technique of dry stone construction, one of the city's greatest enigmas. Stepping into the crumbling spaces of Ouadane, one cannot help but wonder, how could a community living in such harsh desert conditions centuries ago create structures durable enough to withstand both time and the fury of desert storms? What do you think lies behind the enduring mystery of the stone city of Ouadane? Do you believe its extraordinary dry stone architecture was simply the product of skill and experience, or could it hint at forgotten knowledge from a lost age? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might reveal a new angle to this ancient mystery. To fully understand Ouadane's strangeness, one must imagine its peak between the 11th and 16th centuries, when this stone city sat along one of the great trans-Saharan caravan routes transporting gold, salt, and goods between West and North Africa. The name Ouadane once resonated as an important trading center on the Sahara's commercial map. Yet what makes it mysterious is not only its economic significance, but also the remarkable absence of historical records. A city so large, once bustling with life, has left behind shockingly few documents. These gaps render Ouadane like a spectral silhouette. We know it existed, we know it prospered, but we do not understand why its builders chose such a barren desert to establish a stone metropolis. The puzzle deepens when we realize that Ouadane possessed an architectural style so unique and refined, especially given the scarcity of local resources, that it challenges modern assumptions. This was the art of dry stone construction, built without mortar, without binding agents, relying solely on precision stacking. When people think of dry stone building, they often imagine rustic stone walls scattered across rural Europe. But in Ouadane, this technique reached an exceptional level of refinement. Small, irregular stones were fitted together with astonishing precision. These were not massive carved blocks, but local stones, collected lightly shaped and positioned in ways that made entire structures stable without any adhesive. Even more astonishing, many walls in Ouadane still stand after centuries of exposure to some of the Sahara's most abrasive winds strong enough to carve into solid rock. Researchers see Ouadane as a prime example of the intelligent stone-stacking tradition of medieval Berber societies. Yet to this day, no one has fully explained how these builders calculated compression forces, weight distribution, and the exact angle of each stone to ensure such long-lasting stability. The mystery deepens as one observes the remains of multi-story structures within the ruins. Typically, dry stone methods are suitable only for low-rise buildings, yet Ouadane features stone houses stacked to heights that seem impossible for a desert society of its era. Thin stones were layered one atop another, each layer interlocking with the next, forming a remarkably strong, load-bearing system. Some walls even lean inward slightly, an early gravity control technique known in advanced architecture. This prompts archaeologists to ask, did the people of Ouadane possess engineering knowledge far beyond what history credits them with? Or might they have inherited or adapted techniques from a civilization that has since vanished? Such questions contribute to the mysterious aura enveloping the stone city, turning every ruin into an incomplete fragment of a forgotten past. From afar, Ouadane's structures resemble a giant abandoned anthill. But as one approaches, the subtle genius behind material selection becomes clear. The local stone is hard, brittle, and prone to fracturing. Yet the city's builders managed to choose shape and place each piece so that it supported both the overall design and the long-term durability of the structure. In a world with no timber, no mortar, and no metal reinforcement, they developed a building method based entirely on intellect and manual skill. Stones that appear insignificant individually become essential stabilizers when placed precisely where they belong. The process resembles solving a living geometric puzzle in the desert. This makes Ouadane a treasure trove of dry stone knowledge, beautiful yet extremely challenging to reproduce. Deeper inside the ancient city lie narrow paved pathways guiding residents between homes, courtyards, and storage areas. Yet many of these paths lead nowhere. They twist between collapsed walls, only to end abruptly in empty spaces containing no visible markers. Some scholars believe these could be ritual routes or astronomical alignment paths, but when compared with other ancient civilizations, none of these theories fit conclusively. Ouadane seems to follow an urban logic that has been lost, leaving future generations baffled even when standing within the ruins themselves. Alongside its architectural uniqueness lies the enigma of Ouadane's abrupt decline. Around the 16th to 17th centuries, the stone city almost entirely vanished from historical record. There is no evidence of large-scale warfare, natural catastrophe, or epidemic. All we know is that one day its inhabitants left and never returned. Some theories suggest that the collapse of trans-Saharan trade robbed the city of its purpose. Others propose tribal conflicts or the rapid advance of desertification. But all remain speculative. No written document describes Ouadane's final days. It vanished just as mysteriously as it rose. Further deepening the mystery are local legends, claiming the city was cursed by desert spirits. Villagers say strange lights appear at night, and footsteps echo through the ruined alleyways. Although no scientific explanation exists, these stories contribute to the supernatural atmosphere surrounding Ouadane. In Sahara folklore, abandoned cities often belong to jinn, invisible beings of sand and wind. Ouadane, with its enigmatic decay, has become a place where history and mythology intertwine. One of Ouadane's most intriguing aspects is the collection of ancient manuscripts once stored in the city's libraries. Today, only a small portion remains. Most were lost or buried by time. These manuscripts are believed to have contained knowledge of astronomy, trade linguistics, and religion. But because so many texts are missing, we cannot determine the true intellectual sophistication of Ouadane's people. This deepens the mystery further, hinting that the stone city may once have held knowledge now lost to humanity. All these elements, the isolated desert setting the rise and disappearance of a commercial hub, the extraordinary dry stone architecture, the unreadable urban planning, the supernatural legends, and the lost knowledge together create the portrait of a truly singular ancient city. Ouadane is not merely a ruin, it is a question without an answer. Its dry stone engineering stands as one of the great technical mysteries of the Sahara, defying assumptions about what desert communities were capable of. It compels us to ask, have we underestimated the civilizations of the desert? How much knowledge lies buried beneath the sands? Today, visitors to Ouadane do not merely see broken walls, they witness secrets preserved between every stone. The city's mortarless architecture has outlived centuries, becoming its most striking and incomprehensible feature. Each stone is a silent witness to an era we can only reconstruct through fragments. And it is this silence, paired with stark beauty and astonishing craftsmanship, that makes the stone city of Ouadane one of the most captivating ancient mysteries of our world. The Vilcabamba lost Inca city has long stood as one of the greatest mysteries of South America, not only because it was the final capital of the Inca Empire, but also due to the unanswered questions surrounding its existence, its fall, and especially the strange disappearance of its entire population. This city, established when the Spanish conquered Cusco in 1533, was where the Inca royal court retreated to resist and sustain a decades-long rebellion deep within the harsh jungles of Espiritu Pampa. The dense, mountainous terrain turned Vilcabamba into a natural fortress, isolated from the outside world and almost erased from history after the empire collapsed. In your opinion, what could have caused Vilcabamba, the final capital of the Inca Empire, to vanish from history for so many centuries? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Archaeological research reveals that Vilcabamba was not merely an administrative or military center, but a complex urban area with multiple overlapping cultural layers, including remnants of the pre-Inca Wari civilization. The strange blend of Inca architecture, Amazonian local building styles, and pre-Inca structures makes it difficult for archaeologists to determine how much of the city the Inca built and how much they inherited from earlier inhabitants. This ambiguity only deepens the mystery surrounding its past. Because of its deep jungle setting, Vilcabamba remained hidden under vegetation for centuries, causing explorers to misidentify its location for a long time. Hiram Bingham once believed Machu Picchu was Vilcabamba, but modern archaeology has proven that the true lost city lies in Espiritu Pampa, a far more remote valley. It was not until the late 20th century that researchers began to confirm the real location of Vilcabamba, revealing a story even more dramatic than the Spanish chronicles suggested. However, the greatest mystery of Vilcabamba does not lie in its location or architecture, but in the complete and unexplained disappearance of its population after the Spanish defeated it in 1572. Historical documents describe Spanish forces entering the city and capturing the last Inca ruler, Tupac Amaru I. Yet beyond a few sparse accounts of the conquest, almost no records explain what happened to the thousands of inhabitants who once lived there. Most puzzling is that Vilcabamba shows no evidence of the widespread destruction the Spanish typically inflicted on Inca settlements. There are no signs of major fires, collapsed city walls, damaged temples, or mass killings. This raises the question, if they were not killed, then where did the people go? Some scholars theorize that the Spanish may have relocated the inhabitants to surrounding regions for easier control, but this does not explain the total absence of records about such an event, nor the lack of any new settlements corresponding to the former population of Vilcabamba. Another hypothesis suggests that upon the city's fall, the inhabitants fled into the jungle and blended into local tribes. Yet this contradicts population estimates of several thousand, far too large a group to disappear without archaeological traces, especially in a jungle environment where long-term survival is difficult. Other researchers question whether a disease epidemic swept through the region before or after the Spanish conquest, drastically reducing the population and scattering the survivors, though this too lacks direct evidence. Archaeology at Espiritu Pampa does show interruptions in daily activity, but not enough to explain the near-instantaneous disappearance of an entire urban community. The disappearance of Vilcabamba's population has therefore become one of the most perplexing enigmas surrounding the Inca. A city that once served as the center of resistance with strong defensive structures and a strategic position left no trace of its people's fate after its fall. This has led some to believe that either Spanish records intentionally concealed a major event or unknown factors remain hidden deep within the jungle. Notably, recent excavations have uncovered additional structures and foundations beneath layers of soil, suggesting that Vilcabamba may have been much larger than originally estimated. If the city truly extended over dozens of kilometers, as some geographical surveys indicate, it is possible that the inhabitants dispersed into distant areas that Spanish explorers never reached. Yet no large resettlement site has ever been found, keeping the theory in the realm of speculation. The mystery becomes even more baffling when compared with other Inca centers where Spanish records typically provide detailed information about population resources, individuals captured, and relocations. Vilcabamba, despite being the final stronghold of the empire, is almost absent from such documentation. This silence has made the city a symbol of historical obscurity, as though it was swallowed by time itself. Some researchers have proposed a bold idea that the surviving inhabitants intentionally erased their traces to protect Inca knowledge and cultural identity from Spanish control, retreating into secret communities that remain undiscovered today. Although this leans more toward legend than archaeology, it reflects a belief that the Inca may have enacted a strategic disappearance from history to preserve what they considered sacred. Even so, the greatest puzzle remains. There is no archaeological evidence of a mass migration, a devastating plague, or a massacre, meaning all existing theories rely on conjecture rather than proof. The more scholars study Vilcabamba, the more perplexing it becomes. It appears as a crucial missing piece of Inca history that was either deliberately erased or obscured by time and nature. As more structures are excavated, researchers realize the city was once far more vibrant and complex than previously imagined, which only deepens the mystery surrounding the sudden disappearance of its inhabitants. No other Inca city vanished in such a strange way, and nowhere else do archaeologists, historians, and mystery enthusiasts encounter so many unanswered questions. While science continues to search for explanations, Vilcabamba still stands deep within the jungle, an unspoken witness to a once powerful civilization overshadowed by unresolved questions, especially the complete sudden and traceless disappearance of those who once called it home. Located in the area near Arles in southern France, once home to the industrial watermill complex, hailed as a Roman engineering marvel, stands a structure so unusual that archaeologists had to give it a tentative name: the circular forts of Barbagal. The term circular forts, however, does not reflect the true nature of these constructions, as decades of excavation have revealed no evidence suggesting a military function. Yet the absence of a precise ancient name only deepens their mystery. Who built them? When were they constructed? And above all, the greatest and most persistent question: what were they built for? What do you think the circular forts of Barbagal were truly built for? A hidden part of the hydraulic system, an unknown industrial facility, or an entirely different purpose lost to history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What makes the circular forts remarkable at first glance is their architectural form. While most Roman forts were rectangular or square with straight walls and clearly defined corners for defense, the structures at Barbagal are circular or near circular. They lack the thick defensive walls typical of forts, have no guard towers, no arrow slits, and most importantly, no signs of military presence. This has led researchers to question the very name assigned to them. Are we misunderstanding the nature of these structures from the very beginning? Ironically, these circular constructions stand next to one of the most sophisticated technical systems of the Roman world, the 16 Barbagal watermills. Considered the largest industrial flour production center of antiquity, the Barbagal complex demonstrates the Romans' advanced mechanical and organizational capabilities. Because of this proximity, many scholars initially assumed that the circular forts must be connected to the operation of the mills. However, as soon as researchers began analyzing the structures in detail, every seemingly logical hypothesis quickly collapsed under scrutiny. Some researchers believed the circular forts functioned as pressure vessels or flow-stabilizing chambers for the hydraulic system. Circular forms distribute force evenly and resist cracking under water pressure. However, on-site surveys revealed no traces of water channels leading into them, no waterproof lining, and no hydraulic treatment on their interior surfaces, features always present in Roman water management structures. If they did not contain water, can they truly be linked to hydraulics? Archaeological evidence suggests they were not. Another theory proposed that the circular forts were storage rooms for grain flour or auxiliary materials, but the structures are far too small to hold the quantities needed for an industrial-scale mill operation. They also lack ventilation systems, raised floors, and other features typical of Roman storage buildings. No tools or containers for food storage were uncovered. Thus, this hypothesis, although initially appealing, does not stand. Some scholars argued the buildings might have served as temporary shelters or observation posts to protect a strategic food production site. But if this were a military zone, why are there no arrowheads, spear tips, forges' hearths, or domestic pottery? The walls are too thin for defense, and the entrances do not match defensive layouts. There is no credible evidence that these structures ever served a military purpose. A more unconventional line of thought suggests the circular forts might have had a ritual or religious function, perhaps related to praying for agricultural productivity, stable water flow, or divine protection. Circular architecture often appears in ritual contexts across ancient cultures. But at Barbagal, there are no altars, statues, oil lamps, or ritual debris. This makes the religious hypothesis weak, though not entirely dismissible. Excavations revealed that many building stones used in the circular forts appear to be recycled from other Roman structures. Some stones showed tooling marks, inconsistent with Barbagal's known construction techniques. This has led researchers to suspect the circular buildings may have been built in a later phase, possibly when the watermills were declining or abandoned. But if they were built later, what purpose could they have served in a site that had already lost its industrial importance? This is the question at the heart of nearly every study of the circular forts. And remarkably, despite technical analyses, archaeological surveys, stratigraphic studies, 3D reconstructions, and comparisons with structures across the Roman Empire, no definitive answer has ever emerged. If the circular forts were connected to the watermills, we may be missing an important technological component that the Romans developed but never documented. Roman texts typically describe major structures, not every individual mechanism involved. If the circular forts were part of the industrial process, then we might be standing before a lost Roman technology. If their purpose was entirely different, unrelated to industry, then Barbagal might have been a multifunctional complex, a site for production experimentation with hydraulic engineering or even agricultural rites. The absence of parallels elsewhere in the Roman Empire makes the circular forts a unique architectural anomaly, like a fragment from a larger machine whose remaining parts have vanished from history. Some modern experts even believe we are only seeing the foundations, while the upper structure, possibly made of wood or organic materials, has completely disappeared. If the upper portion had a different shape or function, the building's purpose might have been obvious to its original users, but is now incomprehensible to us because only its stone skeleton remains. Others argue that the circular forts may have been built for a short-term purpose, one the Romans did not deem important enough to document. This deepens the mystery. The structures appear too deliberately designed to be temporary, yet too obscure to be recorded. From all analyses, what makes the circular forts so captivating is not merely their unusual form or recycled materials, but the fact that no clear function fits them. They do not align with military use, hydraulics, storage, religious activity, or residential occupation. Each hypothesis attracts initial interest only to crumble when compared with actual archaeological evidence. The circular forts of Barbagal stand as a monumental question mark within Roman heritage structures clearly built with intention, skill, and planning, yet whose purpose remains entirely obscured by time. And it is precisely this void, this absence of documentation or architectural parallels, that has made them one of the most enduring and perplexing archaeological mysteries in Europe. Phugtal Monastery, India, is one of those constructions that immediately forces anyone who approaches it to ask a single question. How could people in the medieval period possibly build a monastery inside a gigantic natural cave suspended on a steep cliff of the Zanskar region? Seen from afar, the monastery resembles an enormous beehive pressed tightly against the vertical rock face, with small, clustered structures forming a human-made complex, clinging to the terrain in a way that even modern engineering would hesitate to attempt. This natural cave serves as the initial framework, the foundational gift of nature itself. But the fact that humans were able to transform it into a full-scale monastery with meditation halls, a library, residential quarters, a kitchen area, and even an interconnected network of narrow passageways remains something researchers today still cannot fully explain. The wide cave dome acts like a colossal natural rock canopy, shielding the structure from blizzards and strong winds, while the lower dwellings appear to hang weightlessly above the valley. Just one misstep would send someone plummeting into the deep gorge. Yet hundreds of years ago, builders somehow carried stones and wooden beams along footpaths barely wider than a single foot to erect a complex that still stands today. The greatest mystery is not only the height and steepness of the terrain, but also the method used to stabilize the foundations. The rock surface here is brittle, uneven, and eroded over time by wind and fluctuating temperatures. How then did ancient builders determine which points could withstand the weight of entire structures? And how did they interlock those structures into a cohesive whole that would remain stable, not just for decades, but for centuries? This is why Phugtal stands as a testament to ancient architectural mastery beyond conventional explanation. Looking at the monastery, one cannot escape the feeling that its engineering surpasses the conceptual boundaries of the people of that era, as if shaped by forgotten knowledge or a construction method we have yet to understand. What do you think about the idea that medieval builders were able to construct a monastery suspended inside a massive natural cave like Phugtal? In your opinion, what enabled them to achieve such an almost impossible feat? Lost techniques, advanced knowledge for their time, or something even more mysterious? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The mystery of Phugtal extends beyond its impossible architecture to its extreme remoteness. Nestled deep within the mountains, the monastery is inaccessible by road. Every route leading to it consists of treacherous cliffside paths where even a strong gust of wind can send rocks tumbling into the valley below. Visitors must trek 1 to 2 days on foot, carrying supplies and courage. In winter, heavy snowfall completely isolates the region, making it impossible for anyone to enter. This isolation has preserved Phugtal's ancient character in pristine condition. With no motor noise, no busy settlements, and no modern interference, the monastery exists like a fragment of memory, frozen in time, allowing anyone who arrives to step directly into a world of traditional monastic life. The monks here continue to live simply and peacefully, devoting their lives to meditation, study, and safeguarding ancient knowledge. The origins of the monastery form another layer of mystery. Although it is commonly believed to have been built in the 12th century, traces inside the cave indicate that it was used long before that period. Local legends recount that mysterious light once shone from inside the cave, attracting sages who came to meditate. Ancient Tibetan texts record that numerous yogis had lived in smaller caves around the area for centuries, turning the site into a natural spiritual center. This raises compelling questions. Were the monastery's builders the first to use this location, or did they simply inherit a sacred site with a history far older than we know? There are no surviving documents describing its construction. No technical diagrams, no names of builders, no mention of the techniques used. This absence of information makes Phugtal a secret passed down through time, with no one fully grasping its origin. Another phenomenon that has baffled researchers is the existence of an underground spring within the cave, a small stream that never runs dry, flowing steadily throughout every season, regardless of harsh external conditions. When the outside world is covered in snow and temperatures drop low enough to freeze surface water sources, the cave's spring remains clear and warm. The monks consider it sacred and use it in rituals and daily activities. Some geologists believe the spring is part of an ancient underground water system, yet no comprehensive scientific survey has been conducted to measure or explain it. What is especially peculiar is the spring's stability, which exceeds that of most natural water sources, as though the cave possesses a self-regulating mechanism that remains undiscovered. The architecture itself continues to challenge modern understanding. How has the monastery survived countless centuries without collapsing, despite being positioned in such a dangerous location? The stone walls are dry-fitted without cement. The wooden beams supporting meditation halls and living quarters are simple and aged, yet all of them endure strong mountain winds, winter blizzards, and even minor earthquakes. Still, Phugtal stands firm, with no record of severe structural deterioration. Researchers believe the natural cave dome acts as a stabilizing shield, but that alone cannot explain the monastery's extraordinary resilience. The central question remains the foundations. How did ancient builders understand the geology well enough to place heavy structures on sloping, fragile rock? Modern science still cannot provide a definitive answer. Phugtal is also renowned for housing a collection of rare ancient manuscripts. Inside its small library, monks preserve Tibetan Buddhist texts hand-copied over centuries, including scriptures, traditional medical treatises, meditation commentaries, and even rare archaic scripts. Scholars have traveled hundreds of kilometers and walked for days just to access this exceptional repository of knowledge. What puzzles many is how such a remote monastery managed to acquire so many valuable manuscripts. Some speculate that in the past, Phugtal might have been a far more significant intellectual hub than we currently believe, or perhaps it was entrusted with knowledge that needed protection from war or destruction. Finally, the interior layout of the monastery resembles a natural labyrinth. Narrow, steep passageways, sometimes only wide enough for one person, connect meditation chambers, living quarters, libraries, kitchens, and hidden recesses deep inside the cave. Light enters only through small openings, dimly illuminating the uneven stone steps. This spatial arrangement creates the feeling of walking through another world, a place both raw and intentionally shaped by human hands. Many believe this complexity was designed not only for daily life, but also to safeguard sacred knowledge, concealed meditation chambers, or spiritual artifacts accessible to only a select few. Fatehpur Sikri, the most famous abandoned city of India, is not only a magnificent architectural complex of the Mughal Empire, but also a historical mystery that has never been fully deciphered. Built during the reign of Emperor Akbar the Great in the late 16th century, it was once intended to become a capital that embodied his power, intellect, vision, and spiritual beliefs. Yet what makes Fatehpur Sikri stand out among all other capitals is not its grandeur or architectural synthesis, but a perplexing paradox. The city was constructed in an extraordinarily short time, only a few years, yet it was abandoned almost immediately afterward, becoming a ghost city that remains remarkably intact even today. This abrupt disappearance transformed Fatehpur Sikri into one of South Asia's greatest enigmas, where every wall, every gate, and every courtyard seems to whisper an unanswered question about why such a mighty emperor would abandon a masterpiece he personally created. In your opinion, what was the real reason Emperor Akbar abandoned Fatehpur Sikri just a few years after its construction? Water scarcity, military strategy, spiritual factors, or an unrecorded, mysterious event? Share your thoughts in the comments below. When stepping into Fatehpur Sikri, one feels as though time has stopped. The red sandstone palaces, the vast courtyards, the towering gates, and the intricately carved religious structures all stand nearly unchanged after more than 4 centuries. Strangely enough, although the city was abandoned early, the complex suffered far less collapse and natural erosion than most Mughal sites. Its overall layout remains intact, just as in Akbar's era, the majestic Panch Mahal overlooking the central square, the mysterious pillar of the Diwani Khas, the Hindu-inspired palace of Jodha Bai, and the sacred Dargah of Sufi Saint Salim Chishti. Everything looks like an enormous stage that someone deserted after a grand ceremony, leaving visitors wondering why such masterful constructions were abandoned so coldly. What puzzles historians the most is Fatehpur Sikri's unclassifiable architectural style. Instead of following the typical Mughal aesthetic seen in Agra or Lahore, Akbar deliberately blended 3 design traditions: indigenous Hindu architecture, Persian Islamic elements, and structures reflecting his personal philosophical thinking. Many scholars believe the city was not merely a royal residence, but a spiritual experiment where Akbar sought to test new religious and philosophical values, such as his syncretic faith, Din-e-Ilahi. This leads to the hypothesis that Fatehpur Sikri served more as a symbolic capital than a practical one, a city built to express a vision rather than to support long-term habitation. Yet if that were true, the question remains: why would Akbar invest such immense resources into building a city only to abandon it as if it had never existed? This is the core of the enigma. Why did Akbar abandon Fatehpur Sikri? For centuries, countless theories have been proposed, yet none have been definitively proven. The most common theory involves water scarcity. The Sikri Plateau is arid, dependent on groundwater, and man-made reservoirs. Some studies claim that after several years, the water supply became insufficient for the capital's growing population. However, this contradicts a crucial fact. Akbar was a ruler of profound strategic intelligence, supported by exceptional engineers and planners. How could he have failed to anticipate something as fundamental as the water supply for a new capital? And if water scarcity was truly the issue, why are many hydraulic structures still found in relatively complete condition? The water theory seems reasonable, but fails to explain the sudden evacuation of the entire city without a period of gradual decline as seen in most ancient urban abandonments. Another theory revolves around spirituality. Akbar built Fatehpur Sikri to honor the Sufi saint Sheikh Salim Chishti, who had prophesied that he would have a male heir. When the prophecy came true, some believed that the city had fulfilled its sacred mission. Folklore suggests that destiny decreed the city's existence for only a limited period, after which it was no longer suitable as a royal residence. Yet if this were the case, why did Akbar continue expanding the city for years after the prophecy? And why did he leave without indicating that divine will had dictated the decision? The spiritual narrative enriches the city's mystique, but it is not strong enough to convince historians. The third theory centers on military and political strategy. Fatehpur Sikri's location was far from key conflict zones, making troop mobilization difficult. Some researchers suggest Akbar moved the capital to Lahore to better manage uprisings in the northwest. However, no strategic necessity would require abandoning an entire newly built capital. Typically, a city continues to thrive even after the royal court relocates. Yet Fatehpur Sikri did not. It was emptied almost entirely, as if the population vanished after a single imperial decree. The abrupt evacuation raises another question. Was there a major event that no historical record captured? A plague, a natural disaster, a spiritual omen? The court sought to conceal. No Mughal document describes such a catastrophe. This silence creates an unsettling gap in the historical narrative, a void filled with countless theories but no real evidence. Even more puzzling are the enigmatic structures like the Diwani-Khas with its intricately carved central pillar, which appears to serve a purpose beyond ordinary ceremonial use. Some scholars believe it was a space for Akbar's interfaith dialogues with Hindu, Muslim, Jain, and Christian scholars as part of his philosophical experiments. Others speculate that it had astronomical significance or symbolized absolute power. But if this building was truly the intellectual heart of Akbar's ideology, his abandonment of it without pursuing Din-e-Ilahi further makes the mystery even more perplexing. Other areas, such as the giant Pachisi courtyard, possibly used as a life-sized board game, and the unusual acoustics of the Buland Darwaza hint at purposes exceeding typical urban functions. These elements support the idea that Fatehpur Sikri was a cultural and political laboratory. But if so, did a failed experiment force Akbar to leave silently? Local legends speak of a curse preventing long-term settlement. Stories of supernatural occurrences near the Dargah of Salim Chishti contribute to the city's eerie aura, though no evidence supports them. Still, the folklore reflects a deep-seated belief that Fatehpur Sikri was never entirely human, built under the command of a higher force, and destined to return to silence once its purpose was fulfilled. With all these theories, the question, why did Akbar leave Fatehpur Sikri, remains unanswered. No one knows the truth. No historical record provides clarity. The city sits there nearly intact, like a colossal riddle, defying every attempt at explanation. Perhaps Akbar had personal reasons he chose not to document. Perhaps it was a strategic choice whose evidence has vanished. Or perhaps it is a story history has intentionally concealed. Whatever the truth, Fatehpur Sikri remains one of the deepest mysteries of the Mughal world and the ancient past, a city built with extraordinary ambition, yet abandoned in silence, leaving later generations to shiver as they walk through its towering gates, where the echoes of power, philosophy, and sacred purpose linger like ghosts of a story time refuses to reveal. The Yagul Fortress ruins, perched atop a rugged rocky mountain in the Tlacolula Valley of Oaxaca, Mexico, have long been considered one of the most enigmatic Zapotec archaeological sites. Here, architecture, landscape, and history merge into an ancient tableau filled with unanswered questions. When visitors stand upon the collapsed yet imposing stone platforms of Yagul, the first impression they receive is the vastness of the valley stretching toward distant mountains, instantly revealing why this elevated position was chosen for a fortress. Yet upon closer inspection, a series of anomalies begins to appear. Although archaeologists have studied Yagul for decades, many questions about its construction, techniques, functions, and reasons for existence remain shrouded in mystery. Yagul is not merely a ruin, it is a labyrinth of history, conflicting theories, and above all, a testament to the technical sophistication of a culture seemingly far ahead of its time. The most perplexing and mysterious part of the entire site is the fortress, the defensive complex built on Yagul's highest summit. Here, the Zapotec left behind a fortification featuring thick stone walls, observation platforms, and sections of wall constructed from large stones fitted together without mortar, a technique demonstrating extraordinary engineering abilities that remain unexplained even today. The strangest aspect is that the surrounding area lacks abundant sources of suitable stone, meaning these massive blocks had to be transported from elsewhere across steep mountains and rugged terrain. How did the Zapotec achieve this? There are no ancient records, no codex depictions, and no direct archaeological evidence of transport mechanisms or specialized tools. The multi-hundred-kilogram stones still rest in place, precisely aligned, stable, and unmoved, despite centuries of seismic activity in Oaxaca. This has led researchers to ask, was Yagul's mortarless stonework inherited from an earlier, now forgotten culture, or was it an independent lost technique far surpassing the abilities of contemporary civilizations? The walls of the fortress also exhibit a remarkable design feature. They were built not only to block intruders, but to control their movement, forcing anyone entering the space into vulnerable positions. This suggests a profound understanding of military strategy, yet it also raises a larger question. Did Yagul truly need such an advanced defensive system? The settlement was not heavily populated, nor was it as large as Monte Alban. Why then construct a fortress far exceeding local defensive needs, as if anticipating a threat never recorded in history? This makes the fortress even more puzzling. It appears not only military in nature, but possibly a seat of authority, a place of refuge during conflict, or even a ritual symbolic construction where power was expressed through the mastery of stone and terrain. Descending into the stone maze below the fortress, commonly called the labyrinth, reveals even more of Yagul's complexity. Its narrow corridors, winding passages, sudden dead ends, and small interior courtyards create a space that feels simultaneously residential, defensive, and ceremonial. Some archaeologists propose that it once served as a residential district with interconnected rooms and courtyards. However, this theory faces criticism. Many passages are too narrow for daily life and appear intentionally restrictive. Another theory suggests it was used for warrior training or initiation rituals, but again, no concrete evidence exists. Thus, the labyrinth remains nearly as inexplicable as the fortress above, even though the defensive structure continues to attract the most difficult questions. One of Yagul's most intriguing aspects is the evidence of continuous occupation across multiple eras. Artifacts show that humans lived here as early as the pre-ceramic period, long before the Zapotec constructed their city. This suggests that Yagul may have held unique spiritual or geomantic significance. Even after periods of abandonment, ancient people returned repeatedly, repairing and expanding older structures. This raises the question, was Yagul more than a military site, perhaps a sacred mountain, a ritual center, or an ancient sanctuary later fortified for practical needs? Yagul's tombs and ceremonial courtyards deepen the mystery. Some tombs feature false doors, a hallmark of Zapotec architecture symbolizing the passage to the afterlife. These elements indicate that Yagul held religious importance, yet no statues or texts have been found to identify the deities or rituals performed here. This leaves Yagul as a nameless ritual center, a place bearing traces of ceremony, but offering no stories, forcing researchers to connect scattered clues in hopes of reconstructing its forgotten spiritual narrative. The greatest mystery of all is Yagul's abrupt abandonment. There is no evidence of a major war, no signs of widespread fire, and no destruction caused by enemies. Some theories point to environmental change or disease, but all remain speculative. The puzzle deepens when considering that a powerful defensive structure like the fortress should have protected its inhabitants from most threats. Yet they left regardless, leaving behind a silent fortress overlooking an empty valley, as if its purpose had suddenly and inexplicably ended. What keeps Yagul permanently wrapped in mystery is the silence of history itself. No surviving codex documents Yagul in detail. No ancient texts describe the fortress. No local traditions recount its military or religious role. Everything about the fortress survives only as stone walls standing defiantly across thousands of years, and this silence transforms it into an authentic archaeological enigma, a structure whose purpose, construction methods, and abandonment remain unknown. Today, visitors and scholars observing Yagul are confronted with the same immense question left by its builders. Do we truly understand the technological and strategic intelligence of ancient civilizations? The Yagul Fortress, with its mortarless stonework and oversized defensive layout, stands as a challenge to the modern world. A reminder that many secrets of human history remain unsolved, and that some sites like Yagul exist to show us that the past may have been far more ingenious and complex than we assume. In your opinion, what was the true purpose of the Yagul Fortress? Military defense, spiritual ritual, or an entirely different function we haven't even imagined yet? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Amid the vast AlUla desert of Saudi Arabia, where golden dunes stretch endlessly to form an ancient landscape unchanged for millions of years, stands a natural wonder that compels anyone who sees it for the first time to stop in awe. The AlUla Elephant Rock, known locally as Jabal al-Fil, the Elephant Mountain. In this land, where sandstone, wind, and time become master sculptors, strange rock formations can be found everywhere. Yet none of them achieve the uncanny level of realism displayed by Elephant Rock, a colossal sandstone mass shaped like an elephant, standing contemplatively in the desert, complete with a body, legs, and a long trunk touching the sand. What is most astonishing is that its entire appearance is completely natural, bearing no signs of human carving, no chisel marks, cuts, or tool traces. This suspiciously perfect form has become the center of countless debates, explanations, and legends surrounding Elephant Rock for decades. Do you think the Elephant Rock's perfectly shaped elephant form is merely a coincidence of nature, or does it hide a mystery that science has yet to explain? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Standing before Elephant Rock, one's initial reaction is not simple surprise, but a kind of overwhelming disbelief. The towering rock, over 50 meters tall, stands alone in the vast desert, unobstructed by any surrounding formations, as though intentionally placed to showcase its extraordinary form. This isolation enhances its realism, the head projecting forward, the elongated trunk touching the ground, and the sturdy legs supporting the body, all forming a posture instantly recognizable even to someone who has never seen a real elephant. The true mystery lies in the precision of its curves. None of the details appear broken or randomly eroded as typical sandstone formations do. Geologists argue that wind sand and the rare rainfall carved this structure over millions of years, creating its bizarre morphology. Yet how nature achieved such biologically accurate shaping remains unexplained. Many researchers note that the relative symmetry of Elephant Rock is extraordinarily rare in natural formations. The smooth curvature of its back, the rounded legs, and even the straightness of its trunk all give the impression of a meticulously crafted sculpture. However, geological surveys show no evidence of human intervention. Every contour is the product of natural erosion. This contradiction, something that looks man-made, but is not something natural yet too perfect, forms the core mystery of Elephant Rock. Another puzzle lies in determining its age. Although the AlUla region spans millions of years geologically, the exact moment when Elephant Rock acquired its elephant-like shape remains uncertain. Constant erosion complicates dating methods. Some theories suggest the shape may be only a few 100,000 years old. Others propose it was already present since the Jurassic period. Unable to pinpoint its birth, scientists regard the formation as something that seems detached from any specific era existing outside conventional geological expectations. In ancient AlUla, once home to the Dardan and Lycian civilizations, Elephant Rock may have been more than a natural landmark. Ancient inhabitants likely observed this formation from early times. Though no written records describe its role, many scholars argue that its striking shape and solitary presence could have made it a ritual site, a symbolic marker, or a boundary stone. Across ancient cultures, natural rock formations with unusual shapes often held spiritual significance, marking points where the physical world meets the divine. This theory is further supported by the surrounding remains, stone tombs, inscriptions, and architectural ruins. While no direct archaeological evidence confirms this sacred function, the hypothesis remains widely discussed. Local folklore adds to the mystique. One legend tells of a giant who was turned into stone as punishment for offending the gods. Another speaks of a desert deity who sculpted the rock, using the wind to guard the sacred land. Although mythical, these stories reflect how the people of AlUla have long regarded Elephant Rock as a living entity rather than an inert stone. Many visitors report sensing an unusual energy while standing near Elephant Rock, a calming, meditative presence. Some believe the elephant shape a symbol of wisdom and strength. In many cultures, amplifies this effect. At night, when moonlight washes the sandstone, in silver-grey hues, the rock resembles a living elephant resting in the desert. This natural lighting creates surreal beauty, enhancing the rock's mystical aura and making it seem alive, transforming subtly with each hour of the day. Another oddity is its complete solitude. Elephant Rock stands alone in an open space. No nearby formations mimic its shape. Other rocks in the area also eroded over time, yet none evolved into distinctly recognizable figures. Geologists attribute this uniqueness to specific wind directions, varying sandstone hardness, and the region's weather patterns. But when comparing Elephant Rock to its surroundings, the contrast remains too stark. Why did nature choose this particular stone to craft such a masterpiece? Why not any of the others? These questions linger unanswered. The more one studies it, the more Elephant Rock becomes a paradox. A natural structure with unnatural precision. A random formation with purposeful design. A solitary monolith carrying millions of years of history and cultural memory. These elements combine to make it one of Saudi Arabia's most enigmatic natural landmarks, part geological wonder, part archaeological mystery, and part phenomenon that defies complete scientific explanation. At the heart of everything lies the astonishingly perfect elephant shape. No natural rock formation in the world resembles a real animal as convincingly as Elephant Rock does. It not only mirrors the silhouette, but captures the essence of a standing elephant, attentive still and listening to the whispers of the desert. The longer one observes it, the more lifelike it appears, prompting an inevitable question. Could this truly be just coincidence? Elephant Rock, with all its unanswered mysteries, stands as a reminder that nature can surpass even the finest works of art. Perhaps it is precisely because its perfection remains unexplained that Elephant Rock has become an eternal symbol, proof of nature's mastery and humanity's limited understanding. The Tel Mozan Urkesh Temple is one of the most important archaeological sites for reconstructing the world of the Hurrians, an ancient civilization that once played a major role in the Near East but has nearly vanished from written history. Located atop the mound of Tel Mozan, this temple not only marks the existence of a city that served as a religious and political center, but also carries countless mysteries about Hurrian beliefs, construction techniques, and their puzzling disappearance. What astonishes archaeologists most is the fact that the entire complex, including its walls, foundations, and supporting structures, was built with mud brick, an extremely fragile and erosion-prone material, yet it has endured for more than 4 millennia, outlasting many stone structures in the surrounding region. This immediately raises a striking question. How did the Hurrians achieve what seems technologically impossible for their time? In your opinion, how were the Hurrians able to build a mud brick temple that has remained standing for more than 4,000 years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Before exploring the technical secrets behind the temple's astonishing longevity, it is essential to understand that Urkesh was not merely an ancient city, but the most important religious center of the Hurrian people. The temple is believed to have been dedicated to Kumabi, their supreme deity equivalent to Cronus in later Greek mythology. Yet unlike Mesopotamian temples, which typically contained stone, bronze, or gold statues, Urkesh yielded no divine statue at all. This absence led scholars to propose various theories. Perhaps the Hurrians followed a non-iconic religious tradition. Perhaps the statue was made of perishable organic materials. Or perhaps in their rituals, the sacred space itself rather than a physical idol, represented the divine. This unique characteristic makes Urkesh one of the clearest reflections of the Hurrians' distinctive spiritual identity. Another mysterious element deepening the sacred aura of the site is the Abbey Ritual Pit, a deep, cone-shaped shaft constructed with remarkably sophisticated anti-collapse masonry. The ABI is not a well, not a refuse pit, and not a storage structure. Remains of offerings, ash, and animal bones indicate that it was used for rituals related to the world below. Based on archaeological evidence, many experts believe the ABI served as a gateway linking humans with the deities of the underworld, a liminal space where sacrificial ceremonies strengthened the bond between the people of Urkesh and the divine realm. Although its true purpose remains undeciphered, the existence of the ABI makes the Urkesh temple one of the rare ancient sanctuaries with a ritual architecture unmatched by any neighboring civilization. The feature that makes Urkesh stand out above all else, and the focus of most scholarly fascination, is its mud brick construction technique, an advanced technology for its age, enabling the complex to survive more than 4,000 years, despite harsh climate earthquakes and natural erosion. Mud brick was commonly used in ancient civilizations, yet it was notorious for being fragile, water-sensitive, and prone to decay. And yet the Hurrians transformed this vulnerable material into the durable foundation of their temple and even the surrounding urban environment. This forced scholars to revise long-held assumptions, realizing they had severely underestimated the technical sophistication of the Hurrian builders long before Tel Mozan was excavated. The Hurrians did not make mud brick in a simple manner. They mixed mud with clay sand and straw in a carefully calibrated ratio, ensuring high compression strength, resistance to cracking, and elasticity under environmental stress. When laying bricks, they used a staggered, multi-layer arrangement, dispersing weight and preventing stress from concentrating on any single point. This allowed wide and tall walls to stand without collapsing over the centuries. Some mud brick layers were made thicker to bear loads, while outer layers had moisture-resistant properties, allowing the structure to endure even heavy rainfall or flooding. Even more remarkable, the temple walls were not built perfectly vertical. Instead, they tilt slightly inward, a deliberate engineering solution that reduced gravitational pressure and allowed rainwater to run off at an angle, minimizing erosion. This subtlety demonstrates that the Hurrians understood not only their materials, but also mechanical principles, despite lacking modern measurement tools. Modern simulations reveal that if the walls had been built vertically, they would not have stood for more than a few centuries, let alone several millennia. Beneath the walls lies a multi-layered foundation system, consisting of compacted earthstone fragments and layers of clay that provided elasticity to absorb seismic vibrations, essential in a region frequently struck by earthquakes. The Hurrians even reinforced certain sections with basalt, a hard and durable volcanic stone that is difficult to deform, suggesting they deliberately selected materials to maximize stability. Archaeologists believe this foundation system may represent one of the earliest forms of proto-seismic engineering, predating similar techniques in other civilizations by many centuries. The flawless combination of materials, stacked brick techniques, sloping architecture, and flexible foundations allowed the Urkesh temple to withstand the test of time. The steps, large wall sections, and overall layout remain sufficiently intact for researchers to reconstruct the temple with impressive accuracy. This deepens the mystery further. How could a civilization nearly erased from history possess such advanced architectural knowledge? Perhaps the Hurrians developed a sophisticated body of construction expertise that for unknown reasons was never transmitted to later cultures. The architectural mastery of Urkesh extended far beyond the temple itself. The city featured a well-planned system of stone-paved roads forming routes that connected residential areas to the temple and to ritual zones below. These roads were built using multiple layers of stone sand and compacted earth designed for rapid drainage and erosion resistance, a technique long thought to have originated only in Roman engineering. This indicates that Urkesh functioned not just as a sacred site, but as a fully structured urban center with administrative and infrastructural planning comparable to other major Mesopotamian cities of the same era. Royal cylinder seals discovered in the temple bear the names of Hurrian rulers, such as Tishatal and Queen Oknitum, confirming Urkesh's political significance. Strangely, these names do not appear in any other historical texts outside Tel Mozan, making the Hurrian kingdom one of the most enigmatic lost dynasties of the ancient world. Eventually, in an unresolved historical mystery, Urkesh vanished. There is no evidence of war, no signs of catastrophe, no traces of plague. The city was gradually abandoned around the 1st millennium BCE and subsequently buried beneath sand and debris for more than 2.5 millennia. Only through modern excavations did the resilient mud brick walls emerge once again, proving that despite time's relentless destruction, the Hurrians' advanced engineering allowed their legacy to stand tall, a testament to the intelligence, creativity, and mystery of a civilization long forgotten. The Ollantaytambo Temple Monolith 6 is regarded as one of the most debated structures among archaeologists. In the heart of Peru's Sacred Valley, 6 massive monolithic stones stand side by side, forming a seemingly silent wall that hides countless unanswered mysteries. Each stone weighs tens of tons, polished so smoothly that light reflects off its surface in nearly straight lines, and placed with a precision that conventional Inca construction methods struggle to explain. Yet what makes Monolith 6 most remarkable is not only its craftsmanship, but also its greatest and most enduring mystery. How did the Inca move these colossal stones from a quarry several kilometers away, across mountains, rivers, and valleys, and erect them into a monumental wall without wheels, pulleys, or advanced metal tools? In your opinion, what is the most plausible explanation for how the Inca transported and erected these massive multi-ton stones? Share your thoughts in the comments below. From a broader perspective, the 6 stones are not merely symbolic artifacts. They are testimonies to the ingenuity and organizational capabilities of a civilization that once dominated the Andes for centuries. Each block stands between 3 and 4 meters tall, with surfaces polished so precisely that imperfections are nearly impossible to detect. Standing before the wall, one feels an indescribable sensation. It is more than architecture. It is a message carved from antiquity, a reminder that ancient people once possessed an understanding of physics and engineering in ways we still do not fully comprehend. To understand the mystery of moving and erecting these stones, we must begin with the fact that the monolith's 6 blocks were quarried on the opposite side of the valley, approximately 5 to 7 kilometers away, via mountainous terrain. This means the Inca had to drag the stones downhill, cross a major river, and then haul them up a steep mountainside to the temple site. Without wheels, since wheels were not used in most Inca constructions, and without animals capable of pulling such massive loads, the question of how becomes increasingly difficult to answer. Modern simulations suggest that moving a single stone would require hundreds of workers and a highly stable network of ramps. Yet surviving evidence indicates that the Inca transported these stones even along rough, uneven mountain paths, unsuitable for heavy hauling. One common hypothesis suggests that the Inca rolled the stones on wooden logs. However, this is unlikely. The Andes lack large forests necessary to supply sufficient timber, and wear marks on the stones indicate dragging, not rolling. Even if logs were used, rolling stones weighing tens of tons down unstable slopes would almost certainly cause breakage or uncontrollable movement, risks the Inca could not afford. Another theory proposes that they dragged the stones over paved surfaces using fiber ropes, but the force required still far exceeds typical human capability. Even with hundreds of laborers maintaining balance, preventing slippage, and avoiding fractures while crossing riverbanks or ascending slopes would challenge even modern engineers relying solely on manpower. Additionally, numerous massive stones scattered along the route from the quarry to the temple serve as evidence that transportation efforts once encountered major setbacks, possibly landslides, accidents, or interruptions caused by warfare. But these abandoned blocks only deepen the mystery. If such enormous stones were left behind, then the ones successfully installed at Monolith 6 must have been even more challenging to move. Their size and weight surpass most of the incomplete stones, suggesting that Inca builders possessed a specialized or exceptional technique, enabling them to deliver only the largest and most perfectly shaped blocks to the final destination. More unconventional theories, often proposed by independent researchers, argue that the Inca inherited transportation techniques from an earlier civilization, possibly one that occupied the Andes thousands of years before them, with knowledge far beyond what recorded history suggests. Some speculate the use of vibration sound or heat to reduce friction, or temporarily alter stone properties to ease transport. Although mainstream archaeology does not accept these theories, they persist because traditional methods have yet to fully replicate the logistics of moving such stones in a realistic manner. The cut marks and straight grooves on the stones also do not align perfectly with the known tools of the Inca. These features appear too clean, too precise, and too uniform to have been made solely with stone or copper implements. Another enigma lies in how these massive stones were erected. Not only did they need to stand upright, but they had to be positioned at exact angles and interlocked seamlessly with adjacent blocks. Closer inspection reveals that the stones lean slightly inward, a structural technique used by the Inca to withstand earthquakes. This means erection was not a simple matter of dragging and placing. It required precise calculations of force, angle, weight distribution, and stability. With stones weighing tens of tons, how did the builders adjust each block so perfectly, without cranes, hoists, or metal tools, and ensure it did not topple or damage neighboring stones? To date, no reconstruction experiment has managed to replicate this feat without modern machinery. The deeper scholars dive into Monolith 6, the more evident it becomes that the mystery is not just about moving stones. It is also about the engineering mindset behind them. The wall uses no mortar, yet the stones fit together so tightly that not even a blade can slip between them. Even seismic activity fails to displace the structure. This reveals a profound understanding of stone physics, an ability to lock gravitational forces into place and allow each block to stabilize itself through compression and weight. Such knowledge seems far ahead of its time and strongly suggests that the construction techniques involved much more than brute human labor. Ultimately, the reason the question, "How did the Inca do it?" remains the greatest mystery is the complete absence of historical records. There are no manuals, no construction diagrams, and no surviving oral traditions detailing how these stones were moved. What remains is merely the finished work and scattered evidence. This makes Monolith 6 one of the rare surviving demonstrations of a sophisticated ancient knowledge system we barely understand. Despite numerous theories, none provide a fully satisfactory explanation, ensuring that the mystery continues to fascinate scholars and enthusiasts across generations. Thus, the Ollantaytambo Temple Monolith 6 is more than a stone wall. It is a profound challenge to modern engineering and historical assumptions. It forces us to reconsider the capabilities of ancient civilizations, reminding us that human ingenuity may have reached levels long forgotten. The stones still stand, enduring centuries of earthquakes and environmental changes, quietly sending a message to the future. You may speculate, you may analyze, but the real secret remains buried in the past. The Rio Azul tomb murals are considered one of the most perplexing artistic achievements of the ancient Maya world, not only because of the refined beauty in every brushstroke, but also because of their nearly perfect preservation, something archaeologists have yet to fully explain. When the heavy stone door of the Rio Azul tomb was opened, the excavation team was stunned by the vivid red, black and white pigments, as if the Maya artist had painted them only a few years ago rather than over a millennium earlier. In a context where most Maya murals were destroyed by humidity mold, insects, human intrusion, and the harsh tropical climate, the fact that Rio Azul's murals still retain their sharp pigments is a paradox so striking that researchers refer to the tomb as a mysterious laboratory of ancient color. More impressively, the preservation quality extends beyond clarity. The color, adhesion, smoothness, consistency, and resistance to fading far surpass those of other renowned Maya sites such as Bonampak or San Bartolo. Many experts believe this phenomenon alone makes Rio Azul an archaeological anomaly. Nothing in the natural environment of the region can explain how the colors remain so vibrant that viewers feel as if the past is still breathing through them. What do you think actually allowed the murals in the Rio Azul tomb to remain so vividly colored and impossibly well preserved for more than 1,000 years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. The red pigments used in the murals belong to the hematite or cinnabar family, two resilient minerals, yet neither is fully immune to time, moisture, and natural decay. However, at Rio Azul, even the finest details such as thin black outlines, red dots symbolizing life energy, or white strokes representing light remain so sharp that researchers can almost count each brushstroke made by ancient Maya artisans. This phenomenon raises the question: did the Maya at Rio Azul use a special paint mixing technique or apply some kind of adhesive, an organic or mineral binder unknown to modern science? Some scholars speculate that the pigments may have been mixed with silica crystals or natural desiccants, though there is no conclusive evidence. Another theory posits that the tomb's airtight architecture, combined with an extremely refined ventilation system, created ideal preservation conditions. But this idea has also been challenged, as many other Maya tombs with similar designs failed to preserve their murals. This only strengthens the notion that Rio Azul is an exception, a mystery that defies natural law. A closer look at the murals reveals not only their intact colors, but also that the entire interior of the tomb was designed to honor them. Lines, shapes, and glyphs are deliberately arranged in a harmonious composition, creating the sensation of stepping into a world where the boundary between myth and reality dissolves. The Maya artisans painted both abstract scenes and divine symbols, including masked figures, sacred animals, timekeeping signs, and Solkin glyphs. Yet the most striking element is the uncanny vitality of the pigments, a liveliness that seems to transcend time. One can imagine the murals glowing under the flickering torches of ancient burial rituals, their colors reflecting onto the faces of priests as they guided the deceased into the other world. This extraordinary preservation prompts many scholars to question whether the murals survived by mere chance, or because the tomb's occupant was a special figure whose burial involved secret spiritual rites intended to protect the soul. The Maya believed the dead required a spiritual space to continue existing in another realm, and murals served as a map for navigating that world. If so, the perfect preservation may represent a community's effort to ensure the soul of the tomb's owner never lost its way. Some Maya legends even describe sacred pigments, mixed from flowers, minerals, and sacrificial blood reserved for the funerals of elite rulers. Although no direct physical evidence confirms this, the astonishing vibrancy of Rio Azul's pigments leads many to believe the art here was not merely decorative, but spiritually charged, a form of color magic meant to shield the soul from the erosion of time. When analyzing the mural surfaces closely, researchers found that the pigment tones remain remarkably consistent throughout the tomb. The evenness in the saturation of red and black pigments is almost impossible if oxidation had occurred over time. Additionally, the tomb walls show no major cracks or peeling, highly unusual for limestone structures in humid rainforest environments. This led experts to speculate that the Maya at Rio Azul may have used a special preparatory layer, possibly a stucco mixture formulated with a secret recipe. Some microscopic samples hint at the presence of organosilicates, a material that enhances pigment durability far beyond what is commonly known from Maya construction techniques of the era. However, the samples are too limited to draw definitive conclusions. The mystery deepens when considering that Rio Azul was not a major political center like Tikal or Calakmul. Why then would such an isolated region possess mural preservation techniques superior to the great Maya capitals? Was there once a unique school of art here? A guild of secretive artisans, or perhaps even a religious order with exclusive knowledge? Some scholars speculate boldly that Rio Azul may have been a site for special rites performed by individuals believed to bridge the mortal world and the divine, and that its murals reflect a philosophical tradition far more complex than mainstream Maya history records. From a symbolic standpoint, red dominates the Rio Azul murals, representing blood life and the cycle of rebirth, core elements of Maya cosmology. The fact that red pigments remain as bright as fire after more than 1,000 years reinforces their sacred significance. Black represents darkness and the underworld, yet in Rio Azul, it does not convey coldness. Instead, it forms sharp contours that define the spiritual space. White symbolizing light, and the northern direction appears as luminous bands guiding the soul through different cosmic realms. The durability of the white pigment here is especially puzzling, as white is typically the first to fade, yet in this tomb, it remains intact, as if untouched by time. Another remarkable feature is that the murals appear unaffected by the bacteria or mold that plague most Maya tombs. In many sites, painted walls are covered with black or green mold that destroys pigment layers. Yet at Rio Azul, the mural surfaces are unusually clean. Some theories suggest that the tomb's microenvironment was too dry or nutrient-poor for microbial growth. But this contradicts the regional reality. The Petén area is extremely humid, and similar tombs nearby suffer severe mold damage. Why then is Rio Azul immune? The answer remains unknown. The enigma deepens when examining the historical and cultural context of the tomb's construction. Rio Azul flourished during the turbulent late Classic period, marked by interpolity warfare. The tomb is believed to belong to a royal or high-ranking priest, yet intriguingly, no name of the deceased appears, an anomaly in Maya tradition which emphasized lineage and identity. This absence may be related to why the tomb was crafted with such absolute care. Perhaps the occupant belonged to a secret lineage, or possessed sacred or esoteric knowledge so powerful that death required sealing with eternal art. Taken as a whole, the Rio Azul tomb murals are not merely an artistic masterpiece, but also a testament to the extraordinary creativity and sophistication of the Maya civilization. More importantly, their impossibly intact condition has transformed this tomb into an enduring mystery. These murals do not only stand as witnesses to the past, they challenge modern science itself. Do we truly understand the techniques, knowledge, and spiritual world of the ancient Maya, or is Rio Azul just one of countless secrets they intentionally left behind, awaiting future generations to decipher? The Altun Jade head, also known as the sun god Jade head, has long been regarded as one of the most mysterious and powerful symbols of the Maya civilization, not only because it is the largest jade artifact ever discovered, but also due to the numerous unanswered questions surrounding its origins, meaning, and especially its craftsmanship, which appears so refined that it seems to surpass the technological capabilities of the ancient world. Discovered in a royal tomb at Altun, a mid-sized city rather than a major metropolis like Tikal or Copan, the jade statue immediately puzzled archaeologists. Why would a high-status relic representing Kinich Ahau, the supreme sun god, appear here instead of in major centers of power? This geographic displacement led to countless theories ranging from royal diplomatic gifts and wartime spoils to the possibility that Altun once played a far more important role than current historical knowledge suggests. However, what makes the jade head one of the greatest mysteries is not where it appeared, but how it was created. The jadeite used to carve the statue possesses an almost perfect purity, rare even in the most famous jade sources of Central America. Jadeite is an extremely hard mineral, surpassed only by diamond and a few others. Yet the Maya, who lacked metal tools such as iron or steel, managed to grind, cut, and engrave it into a piece of art with remarkable symmetry and finesse, a level that even modern artisans often need specialized machinery to achieve. The carved lines on the deity's face are not only sharp, but also precise, deep, and entirely free of cracks, despite jadeite's natural brittleness. This leads researchers to a major question. What techniques did the Maya use? Did they possess a special mineral abrasion method, or a now lost mixture of sand, crystal, and oxides? Some theories propose bow drill cutting combined with hematite or quartz powder, but this method is extremely slow and unlikely to produce the smooth curves and intricate details seen on the jade head. Other scholars suggest heating the stone, and cooling it rapidly to create controlled fractures, yet this method cannot produce the precise shapes evident in the artifact. All these uncertainties point to the possibility that the Maya possessed a lost technique far more advanced than what archaeology currently assumes. Even more remarkable, the jade head surface is polished to a high reflective sheen, indicating a laborious polishing process that may have taken months or even years. Under sunlight, the pure jadeite produces a faint, glowing effect, directly matching depictions of Kinich Ahau in Maya mythology, a sun deity whose face radiates brilliant light. This effect was likely intentional, suggesting that the artisan crafted not just a statue, but a visually powerful ceremonial symbol designed to impress in religious rituals. Another perplexing mystery lies in the tiny holes and attachment marks around the statue's edges, suggesting that the jade head may once have been mounted onto a larger object, perhaps a crown ritual mask or piece of royal regalia. If this is true, then the artifact we see today is only a fragment of a much grander ceremonial ensemble. Yet no other matching pieces have ever been found at Altun, raising the question, where are the remaining items? Were they destroyed, taken elsewhere, or still buried beneath the earth? The absence of accompanying artifacts makes the jade head seem even more enigmatic, as if it were the last surviving echo of a vanished royal tradition. The tomb containing the jade head deepens the mystery further. Although it is classified as a royal tomb, the burial goods found within are sparse and not at all fitting for a treasure of such magnitude. This has led to two possibilities. Either the artifact was intentionally relocated to this tomb during a ritual meant to end or seal a political era, or the person buried there was an exceptionally important figure whose identity has yet to be determined. Some even propose that the jade head was interred to seal a political or religious cycle, ensuring that this symbol of power would not fall into the hands of rival factions. But without concrete evidence, these theories remain unresolved. For decades after its discovery, the jade head became the center of public speculation. Is the one on display actually the real artifact? Due to security concerns, the original piece is rarely shown and is often substituted with replicas. This secrecy led many Belizean citizens to believe the real jade head had been taken abroad or lost entirely. Although the government eventually released conservation photos to reassure the public, suspicions persisted. While not directly tied to archaeology, this ongoing debate has added a mythic aura surrounding the artifact. Returning to its most crucial aspect, craftsmanship, modern specialists have examined the carving under microscopes and found precision comparable to mechanical tools. The edges show no signs of coarse stone tools, and the surfaces are so finely polished that the variance is minimal, something Maya artisans should not have been able to achieve with their known tool set and limited time. This extraordinary refinement has led some outside researchers to speculate that a specialized artisan guild may have existed, keepers of secret knowledge not widely shared within the broader Maya world. The Maya were already known for precise stone architecture, advanced astronomy, and symbolic ceremonial art, but the jade head surpasses even their typical craftsmanship. It may have been produced by a royal workshop or by a lineage of master artisans whose techniques were passed down and eventually lost. Yet the central question remains, how did they carve jadeite? Even now, modern attempts to replicate the artifact using equivalent hand tools have not matched its perfection. This elevates the jade head beyond simply being a beautiful artifact. It becomes a testament to lost knowledge, a key that could reshape our understanding of Maya technological capabilities. Beyond symbolizing religious power, It acts as a historical cipher containing untold stories, forgotten methods, and mysteries from an era still not fully understood. The jadeite's reflective quality likely enhanced its spiritual significance. Many scholars believe the statue may have been used in sunrise rituals, carried up temple steps to greet the first light of day. When the sun struck its polished surface, the statue may have glowed brilliantly, giving observers the impression that the sun god himself had awakened. This was likely the artisan's ultimate goal, to create an object that was not only beautiful, but alive, radiant with divine essence. Across thousands of years, the jade head has retained its symbolic power. Even in modern times, people remain captivated by its beauty and mystery, just as the ancient Maya once stood before it, sensing the presence of the divine. Ultimately, the jade head is far more than an archaeological artifact. It is a mirror reflecting the intelligence, beliefs, power, and hidden knowledge of the Maya civilization. And until the technique behind its creation is fully deciphered, if that day ever comes, it will continue to stand among humanity's most enigmatic treasures, reminding us that the ancient world may have been far more advanced than we often imagine. In your opinion, what mysterious technique allowed the Maya to craft the jade head with such extraordinary, seemingly impossible precision? Which theory do you find most convincing? A lost technology, the secret skills of a royal artisan guild, or something entirely different? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The discovery of the Sinauli copper chariot burials became one of the greatest shocks in 21st century South Asian archaeology, not only because of the copper-clad chariots unearthed from the soil, but also due to the layers of culture, metallurgical knowledge, warrior ritual, and social structure revealed behind each artifact. Resting quietly in the calm fields of present-day Uttar Pradesh, Sinauli seemed unlikely to offer anything capable of altering history. Yet when the first layers of soil were removed, a completely different story emerged. A story of an ancient community whose technology, symbols of power, and understanding of warfare far surpassed what we imagined for the post-Harappan era. The copper chariots, the anthropoid coffins, the elaborate funerary rituals, and especially the unexpectedly sophisticated assemblage of weapons and armor transformed Sinauli into one of the greatest enigmas on the archaeological map of India. If the warriors of Sinauli truly possessed metallurgy and weapon-making technology far ahead of their time, which kind of culture do you think they belonged to? A forgotten indigenous group, or a mysterious warrior community never recorded in history? Share your theories in the comments below. The picture of Sinauli is pieced together from dozens of artifacts, yet what stands out is that they resemble no clearly documented cultural system. The copper chariots do not align with the spoked-wheel Indo-European chariot model. The anthropoid coffins display a style never before seen in the Ganges plain. The burial architecture feels both familiar and unfamiliar. However, it is the layer of bronze weapons and armor that truly confounds researchers. In the period dated roughly between 2000 and 1800 BCE, metallurgy in many South Asian communities remained simple, mainly revolving around bronze tools and everyday objects. But Sinauli presents a weapons assemblage that forces every theory to be reconsidered. Long-bladed swords with unusually extended hilts, copper shields with complex, concentric ribs, chest armor of strange shapes and spearheads, and war implements carrying symbolic meanings of status and authority. The first striking feature is the shape and dimensions of the swords. They have long, wide blades, sharply pointed tips, and especially long hilts, a design rarely found in the Ganga-Yamuna region of this era. The extended hilt allows two-handed use, generating powerful strikes and greater control, indicating that the wielder was a professionally trained warrior. The blades show meticulous hammering marks, sharp edges, and balanced structure, proving that Sinauli's metallurgists not only knew how to produce weapons, but also had deep understanding of optimizing combat effectiveness. While most Bronze Age weapons of the region were ritualistic or crude, the swords of Sinauli possess unmistakably functional combat characteristics. This raises a major question. How could a community in North India develop such advanced bronze forging technology without leaving a broader cultural footprint elsewhere? If the swords were already astonishing, the copper shields were even more surprising. These were not simple, flat metal plates. They were shaped convexly, with raised concentric ribs and sometimes decorative motifs. This demonstrates a profound understanding of mechanical force. The curved surface and ribbing help disperse impact, reducing the likelihood of bending or breaking under heavy blows. This technique took many civilizations centuries to refine, yet Sinauli achieved it remarkably early. Some shields include holes and protruding nodes arranged for attaching straps or handles, proving they were fully usable in real combat, not merely ceremonial. Notably, the copper armor at Sinauli appears to have been crafted to mimic the contours of the human body. Some plates curve naturally around the torso, imitating ribs or musculature, enhancing both aesthetics and force distribution. Such armor is commonly associated with elite warriors or members of a ruling class. The style of Sinauli's armor is entirely distinct from the Harappan tradition, which rarely shows large-scale armor manufacturing, and it also does not match the styles of later Vedic cultures. Where did this technology originate? Was it a local innovation or introduced by a warrior group, unrecorded in surviving histories? Spearheads, daggers, and smaller war implements also demonstrate extraordinary craftsmanship. Spearheads are forged into leaf-shaped forms with a central ridge that reinforces durability. Some have grooves to secure them tightly onto wooden shafts and transmit force more efficiently when thrusting. Daggers have hilts decorated with evenly spaced bronze studs, indicating that artisans valued aesthetics and symbolism as much as functionality. These details point to a socially stratified society where weapons were not merely tools, but symbols of warrior identity and status. One of the most perplexing elements is why are the burials containing chariots accompanied by full weapon sets if the chariots were strictly ceremonial? Why are the deceased buried as full warriors? If they were warriors, to which army did they belong? Professional warrior classes generally appear in organized states, yet other evidence from the Ganges plain of this era does not indicate the presence of a large kingdom or army. This raises the possibility that independent warrior groups existed operating as clans or alliances with unexpectedly advanced technology. Looking more broadly, the bronze weapons and armor of Sinauli are not only technically advanced, but also demand significant investment. High-temperature furnaces, substantial amounts of metal repeated, forging cycles and skilled artisans imply an organized community with structured labor and stable resources. This contradicts earlier assumptions that the post-Harappan period was marked by fragmentation and technological decline. Instead, Sinauli suggests that some groups not only preserved technological knowledge, but developed it to a higher level. These weapons also force scholars to reconsider chariot theory. Some argue that Sinauli's chariots were ceremonial because their solid wheels reduce high-speed mobility. Yet the presence of full combat weaponry in the same burials suggests military use. Perhaps Sinauli used chariots not for fast Indo-European-style warfare, but as heavy, stable platforms for ritual symbolic combat or displays of power. This opens the possibility that chariot culture in South Asia developed according to an entirely unique model, unlike Western or Central Asian traditions. Furthermore, the entire burial system, chariots, anthropoid coffins, weapons, indicates funerary practices reserved for a warrior elite or leadership class. The combination of chariots and armor suggests their social importance. They may have been military commanders, ritual leaders, or political authorities. Being buried with complete weaponry signifies they were honored not only in life, but also in death as protectors of their community. This sharply contrasts with earlier Harappan society, where richly equipped warrior burials are rare. All these elements make Sinauli an enormous archaeological mystery. It challenges established historical models, suggests the existence of advanced metallurgical knowledge, complex social structures, and a worldview in which warriors played a central role. That a community of this period could create such refined weapons and armor implies that South Asian history is far richer than previously imagined, with many forgotten chapters still waiting to be uncovered. Sinauli opens a doorway into a culture, seemingly lost one, where metal ritual and warfare intertwined into a unique identity. And until archaeology uncovers definitive answers, Sinauli will continue to stand as one of humanity's most captivating ancient enigmas. The Puruchuco Palace, one of the strangest and least known Inca sites located on the outskirts of Lima, Peru, embodies a combination of ancient architectural grandeur and mysterious gaps in history that no one has been able to fully explain. When looking at Puruchuco, one can immediately sense that it is not merely the ruin of an ordinary ancient structure. It resembles a crucial but misplaced fragment in the grand puzzle of Inca power rituals and socio-political life, especially during the empire's expansion toward the coastal regions. Though Puruchuco is not as monumental as Machu Picchu, nor as refined as Ollantaytambo, its eerie silence in historical records makes it a place shrouded in profound enigma. The thick adobe walls, rectangular courtyards, sequential rooms, and central architectural arrangement all indicate that this was never a simple construction. Yet the most compelling aspect of Puruchuco is the question that has remained unanswered for decades. What was the true role of Puruchuco? Each new excavation seems only to deepen the mystery rather than provide clarity. What do you think the true role of Puruchuco was? A seat of political power, an administrative center, or a secret ceremonial site of the Inca? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Archaeologists refer to Puruchuco as a palace, but this designation is based primarily on speculation rather than concrete evidence. No Inca texts mention Puruchuco, nor do Spanish colonial records describe its function. It is puzzling that such a large structure located near significant routes of the Capacnan road network appears in none of the available documentation. This absence leads many researchers to believe that Puruchuco once served a particularly sensitive role, possibly related to coastal administration, secret rituals, or as the residence of a local ruling class that history has deliberately or accidentally erased. The lack of written evidence leaves every theory in the realm of conjecture, turning the site into a captivating historical riddle. Some archaeologists argue that Puruchuco functioned as a high-status administrative center supporting the complex Inca governance system along the coast. However, the internal layout does not align perfectly with known administrative models. Another theory suggests that it was the residence of a local ruler, yet numerous ceremonial features, such as small ritual courtyards, stone platforms, and symbolic winding pathways, complicate this assumption. These features give Puruchuco a hybrid identity: part residence, part ceremonial complex, part administrative building, yet fully fitting none. Another major puzzle intensifying the uncertainty regarding Puruchuco's true function is the sheer number of burials discovered around the site. Hundreds of mummies from various social strata, accompanied by rich grave goods and textile bundles typical of coastal cultures, suggest that the area played an important role in death-related rituals. This has led to additional speculation. Perhaps Puruchuco once served as a central hub for funerary rituals or as an administrative point during periods of war or disease. Still, the unusually high number of burials around a structure believed to be a palace raises contradictions. If it was a funerary center, why was the architecture built in typical Inca palace style? And if it was a palace, why were so many burials concentrated here? These conflicting clues only deepen the mystery of Puruchuco's true function. The exceptionally thick adobe walls of Puruchuco are another detail fueling academic debate. Some researchers believe the walls were engineered to improve seismic stability, fitting Peru's earthquake-prone geography. However, their unusual thickness compared to other Inca constructions raises the possibility that the complex once held valuable objects or hosted rituals requiring isolation and secrecy. Additional evidence, such as traces of red, white, and yellow pigments, colors associated with Inca authority, suggests the palace was once brightly decorated. This implies that Puruchuco was not merely functional, but held ceremonial or political significance. Puruchuco's proximity to major Inca roadways has led many scholars to suggest it may have been a checkpoint or logistical center for trade or military movement. Yet, no weapons storage garrisons or other clear military features have been found. Some experts believe it could have served as a rest point or ceremonial hub for pilgrims traveling along Capacñan. Still, its architecture does not perfectly match that of typical Inca pilgrimage sites. Thus, despite its strategic location, its role within the vast road system remains blurred and unresolved. Even more perplexing than its architecture or surrounding burials is the fact that Puruchuco left virtually no trace in historical documentation. A structure of this size, with clear evidence of complex social and ceremonial activity, should have appeared in Inca administrative records or Spanish colonial accounts. Yet history remains completely silent. This unusual omission strengthens the possibility that Puruchuco served a role too sensitive to record, or that it belonged to a ruling lineage that vanished before the Spanish arrival, or perhaps it fulfilled a ritualistic or political purpose that was intentionally kept secret. All these elements intertwine to make Puruchuco one of the great enigmas of Inca civilization. It is not merely a well-preserved ancient structure, but a testament to the complexity of coastal Inca society. Every wall, every room, every stone platform, and every artifact hints at a story we may never fully reconstruct. Although archaeologists have proposed multiple theories from royal residence to administrative hub, ceremonial site, or logistical center, none fully fits the evidence. This unresolved gap is precisely what makes Puruchuco so compelling, a structure positioned at the crossroads of power, ritual, funerary tradition, and commerce, yet belonging wholly to none. The only certainty is that the true role of Puruchuco remains an enduring question, and perhaps it is this very mystery that elevates it to one of the most intriguing monuments of the Inca world, a silent palace that still whispers fragments of a vanished past we continue striving to illuminate. The Junar Caves are regarded as one of the greatest testaments to ancient stoneworking skills, while simultaneously standing as one of the greatest architectural enigmas of the Indian subcontinent. Formed over many centuries, spanning from the pre-Buddhist period to the era when merchants and royal patrons supported the expansion of Buddhism, Junar does not consist of just a few caves, but an extensive network of more than 200 caves scattered across 3 hills, a massive scale rarely matched elsewhere. Yet what truly sets Junar apart and makes it so difficult to decipher is not the number of caves, but the extraordinarily refined rock-cutting technique that far surpasses our understanding of ancient tools and construction methods. Basalt, the primary stone at Junar, is extremely hard, heavy, and notoriously difficult to carve. And yet, the ancients sculpted entire basalt mountains into straight corridors, perfectly proportioned, circular pillars, vaulted ceilings with stunning acoustic resonance, and wall surfaces so smooth that modern light reflects off them almost like machine-polished faces. Most astonishing of all these feats were achieved without mortar, without laying bricks, and without assembling blocks, only by removing stone from a single solid mass, meaning any miscalculation would result in irreversible damage. With rock-cutting techniques so refined that they seem to surpass the known capabilities of ancient tools, what do you think the ancients used to create such perfect vaulted ceilings, perfectly symmetrical monolithic pillars, and basalt surfaces, polished as if by modern machines? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your theories about this architectural mystery. When examining the Chaitya caves at Junar, specialists observed that everything follows a nearly perfect axis of symmetry, from the row of pillars along the sides to the position of the shrine and the curvature of the vaulted ceiling. To carve such a curved ceiling, ancient craftsmen had to know the exact starting point, curvature slope, and direction of expansion. Otherwise, the entire structure would deform. Remarkably, during the period in which Junar was constructed, India has no recorded evidence of sophisticated angle measuring tools or advanced surveying devices. So how did they create such acoustic curves precise enough that a whisper inside the cave can be heard resonating clearly from all directions? Many modern acoustic engineers have attempted to simulate the structure of several Chaitya caves and found their acoustic distribution to be near ideal, an extraordinary achievement for a handcrafted structure from 2,000 years ago. The pillars present another mystery. Many of the circular pillars at Junar were carved from single blocks of stone with a consistent diameter from base to top, even featuring decorative grooves that run evenly around them without deviation. Using laser measuring equipment, archaeologists found that the margin of error on these pillar surfaces is only a few millimeters, a precision difficult even for modern stoneworkers using advanced tools when shaping basalt. This leads to a profound question. Did the ancients possess cutting and measuring tools far more sophisticated than recorded history suggests, or did they follow some esoteric working method now completely lost? Several caves show signs of stone polishing to an exceptional degree. The walls and floors of meditation chambers in the Ganeshlena area are smooth even and reflect light slightly. There are no chisel debris marks, no irregularities, and no traces of jointing. Archaeologists believe that achieving such a finish would have required thousands of hours of continuous manual grinding. But this raises crucial questions. Given the scale of hundreds of caves, how much labor was mobilized? And why does this superior polishing technique not appear widely in other contemporary structures? Another strange feature of Junar is its remarkable design uniformity. Monastic caves, despite being separated by kilometers and built across multiple generations, share nearly identical layouts. A flat, central chamber, sleeping cells carved along the walls and entrances that remain symmetrical and follow a standardized height. This has led many researchers to believe that there once existed an ancient architectural standard at Junar, a shared blueprint or set of construction rules. But the mystery is, where is this standard? It has never been found in any surviving historical text. How, then, did artisans over centuries adhere to the same design principles with such consistency? Equally puzzling is the presence of incomplete areas within the complex. Some pillars appear only sketched out, while certain walls show clear signs of being carved midway before abruptly being abandoned. This incompleteness does not seem related to geology or technical failure. Instead, it resembles a sudden halt. Was it due to political turmoil, religious transitions, or some unknown cause that forced construction to stop instantly? Whatever the reason, it turns Junar into an unfinished masterpiece full of sophistication yet marked by strange interruptions. Perhaps the most enduring mystery of Junar concerns the technique itself. How did ancient people carve basalt, a stone so hard that even steel hammers can chip into flat walls, round pillars, curved ceilings, and finely detailed sculptural elements? There is no evidence that they used high-carbon steel. Iron of that era was brittle and incapable of producing such fine cuts. Some researchers propose that heat may have been used to fracture the stone surface, or cold water may have been applied to thermally shock and peel layers away. But these theories fail to explain the flawless smoothness of the interior surfaces. Others believe there must have been master engineers, individuals who possessed knowledge now completely lost to time. Regardless of which hypothesis one supports, Junar remains a challenge to modern human understanding. It reminds us that ancient people sometimes possessed techniques far beyond what written history suggests. The perfect curves, the unwavering symmetry, the basalt pillars as hard as steel, yet carved with artistic softness, all combine to form an architectural complex that would be difficult to replicate even with today's machinery. Thus, Junar is not merely an archaeological site. It is a vivid testament that humanity's technical history may contain far more gaps than we assume. The anonymous craftsmen of the past, armed with tools we consider primitive, carved into stone, a timeless masterpiece posing questions that modern science still cannot fully answer. And it is precisely these unanswered questions that give the Junar cave its enduring allure, a place where every stone wall preserves marks of chiseling, yet also guards profound secrets untouched for millennia.